My daughter was just there, Kansas City, Kansas.
All right.
She was just there.
All right.
She said it's really, really
Please
nice.
join us in the... We're live? We're good. All right. Welcome to the this October 15th, 2025 meeting of the Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start off with the... let me get here. Start off with a roll call. Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Supervisor Ross.
Here.
Supervisor McCartney.
Present.
Supervisor Blundy.
Here.
I am Supervisor Grenier. We are all here. All right, start off with item number 4, community announcements. A reminder, during this portion of the agenda, residents and youth organizations may call in to make a special announcement or contact the township at admin@lmt.org to request a special announcement be added to the agenda. Reminder that the 2025-2026 deer hunting season has started. All areas being hunted are properly posted. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to the township at admin@lmt.org. The Environmental Advisory Council is hosting the Styrofoam Collection event on Saturday, November 1st from 10 a.m. to noon right here at the Township Building. Along with your clean styrofoam, you can also bring natural corks, clean pill bottles with tops, and batteries. If you have any questions, you can check out the calendar on our website or reach out to the township at admin@lmt.org. The township will be hosting an American Red Cross blood drive on Friday, November 7th from noon to 5, again right here. If you can, please participate. We always need more blood. Lower Makefield Township, along with Yardley Borough, will be hosting an e-waste recycling event offering township and borough residents the opportunity to responsibly recycle obsolete electronics. I guess that's all relative, right? This event will take place in the pool at LMT parking lot, 1050 Edgewood Road in Yardley, Saturday, November 8th from 9 a.m. to noon. For more information, please visit our website calendar. The Environmental Advisory Council, along with Penn Environment's Zero Waste Program, will present on single-use plastic bags on Saturday, November 8th from 10 a.m. to 11, again right here at the Township Building. And Lower Makefield Township, in partnership with the Veterans Square Foundation, is hosting the 19th Annual Veterans Parade and Commemorative Ceremony on Saturday, November 8th at 1 p.m., rain or shine. The parade will begin near the intersection of Edgewood Road and Longacre Lane and proceed to Veterans Square Monument at the corner of Edgewood Road and Heacock Road. Also, for those watching at home, we were informed just at the beginning of the meeting that the YouTube is having some issues across the country, I guess. So if you're trying to watch on YouTube, you don't have access at the moment. You still have access via the cable channels, but the meeting, when it's complete, will be posted on YouTube for viewing later. Let's see. Supervisors, anyone else have any announcements? Anything else you'd like to bring up?
Just one additional item, Mr. Chair, just of note, that leaf collection is beginning on Monday, November the 3rd. There is information that's posted on the township website regarding sort of the respective cycles and dates associated with that. So just wanted to make mention of that.
And since we're mentioning leaf collection, reminder, please, when piling your leaves up, please pile them within your yard, up to the curb, not over the curb, onto the road. When you put leaves in large piles on the road, one, it creates a safety hazard because it narrows the road, so it's harder for people that are walking, riding their bikes, walking their dogs, and just driving to get around. Secondly, those leaves ultimately do get washed into our stormwater infrastructure. It can do massive amounts of damage, flooding, etc. So you're doing your neighbors a favor by not putting your leaves in the road. I believe our code enforcement officer will be making his rounds too to check on things to make sure that that's not happening. That being said, hopefully our leaf collection can be done in a timely manner so that it's less of an issue. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Any other supervisors? Anything? Cool. All right. With that, I will open up to item number 5, which is public comment on non-agenda items. So if you have public comment, please come up to the podium here, state your name, whether or not you're a resident, and please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone with public comment? All right. Hearing none. Anyone online or on the phone? No one online. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to consent agenda items. Item number 6, consent agenda. Would any supervisor like to remove any items from the consent?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to remove agenda item 6G for discussion under the manager's report.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of moving?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Sounds good. Any?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items A through F as listed.
Okay.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any supervisor concerns or comments about that? Any public comment or concerns about that? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. So we will move item 6G. Mr. Manager, if you could remember to bring that up.
Will
under your
do.
report.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Majewski, item number 7 is consider acceptance of the bid from Parkin Landscape and Hardscape LLC in the amount of $62,991.12 for the fall 2025 tree planting project. I believe Mr. Majewski, our Community Development Director, has a brief presentation to show us where the trees are going to be planted.
That is correct. I've made up a short little presentation just showing where we're doing our tree planting for this year. We are doing it township-wide. There's a number of spots we're doing it. There's going to be a total of 169 trees this fall, and this is part of our long-range tree planting plan that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors last year, funded by contributions from developers for trees that were removed during construction projects. At Memorial Park, we're continuing on the planting. We have 10 sourwood trees going on the east and south sides of the tennis court. Last year, we had planted the ones on the north and west side, basketball courts. And then we have 5 more red maples and 3 sourwoods that are going to be going somewhere in this general area. I know we're still looking at exactly where we're going to place those. That's still to be determined, but it'll be somewhere at Memorial Park.
Yeah. Mr. Majewski, one thing I would just add really quick, or ask you to consider, especially on your last slide, is under, where is it, Dave? Under the manager's report, we'll be talking about Memorial Park work. So we just want to make sure there's no conflict between proposed upgrades to various features at Memorial Park versus where the trees are going.
And that's why the location has not been determined.
Understood.
And it won't be anywhere near that area.
And Jim, I'm no expert, but I've seen Supervisor Lewis play basketball. He can be very aggressive going towards the net. Are those trees far enough back that they're, because I know they're going to be little saplings, like should they, I leave it to you, but they look a little bit close.
Yeah, there's sufficient room for them to be planted and grow to full maturity without adversely impacting Supervisor Lewis's ability to dunk.
If you say so.
I've never been able to dunk in my entire life.
Well, if the trees are closer to the court, you can climb the tree.
I can climb the trees, perhaps.
The sun will no longer get in his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my youth, I was able to dunk a golf ball. That was it. Couldn't get any higher. On the east side of Memorial Park, where we constructed the tennis and pickleball courts, there's requests from residents for additional buffering in that area. We had planted a number of trees last year between the tennis courts and the path, and also a row of shade trees along the bike path that goes throughout the park. And here we're going to plant 20 eastern red cedars to the east side of that to provide a better buffer between the homes and the tennis and pickleball.
This might not be a question for you, Mr. Majewski, but that's a large open field that gets mowed all the time. That whole section between the path and basically the backyards there. Is there, I'm guessing, as part of overall park and rec planning over time, there may be some consideration for something there to do something with that, and I'm not even saying build anything, I'm saying replant the whole thing or do something else. Has there been any study or recommendations on that particular just large open area that gets mowed all the time?
Actually, as part of that long-range tree planting plan, we tasked our consultant with taking a look at that area, and they recommended that it's actually a nice area to have like a big meadow-type area in there, and/or planted with trees, one or the other, or a combination of both. On our long-range plan, we have it as a meadow that maybe we have walking trails through. I know the managed meadow does require more work. Trees require work too because they die, they need to be removed. So that's still to be determined. That's something we can look at a little bit closer.
Yeah, it's just a large area
Sure.
that we seemingly spend a lot of money mowing, but never use for anything. Sure. Anyhow, keep going, please.
I just have, can you go back to that real quick? I just have a quick question. So if the idea, and an eastern red cedar, how tall does that grow?
I think at maturity, they grow to maybe 30 to 40 feet. So they're not overly large, but they do provide a decent amount of buffering. They're a native tree.
They're evergreens.
I think,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
why.
they're resistant to deer too.
Yeah.
So those are the green, are they the green giants? Is that what?
No, those are arborvitae. They're
Oh, okay. Similar to it, okay.
Idea, but different.
So from an aesthetic standpoint, why wouldn't we want to move those trees all the way down to the bottom? So then what you're offering is full buffer from those 2 or 3 houses on the right-hand side to pickle and tennis. So you don't see, and maybe it helps damper some of the sound that's coming from those cords if you drag those blue dots, if you're following where I am, all the way down to around that bend.
Well, actually, that's a very good pickup because after I drew the blue dots, I realized, what was I doing? I should have dragged it down exactly as you said. So,
Okay. So that's going to be it's going to line up more with,
Drag down.
yeah.
okay, thank you.
It'll all be shifted to the south from where it's shown on here.
I didn't
don't
know-
know what I was thinking.
It's okay. It's blue dots. I just wanted to make sure. They're not planted yet.
I think I just lost count.
No, you're good.
John, I'm going to pick on James this time because his pickleball game can get quite aggressive, so he wants to make
Totally,
sure
yes.
that he's buffered.
Not as aggressive
appropriately.
as Mr. Supervisor John's basketball game, but it can get pretty bad.
Dan and Matt were coming for you.
We also have continuing of tree planting at the Fred Allen Softball Complex on Oxford Valley Road. There were some trees that we hadn't planted at the last round, some thornless honey locusts that we're going to be going to provide some shade for spectators over on the west side of the fields, and then a few red buds, some maples, and a few other trees in that area to sort of fill in and complete the rest of that plan. At Veterans Square, as part of the plan, we had laid out to have some red oaks, maples, and amelanchier or serviceberry plants planted sort of on the east side where there's that existing tree row, sort of fill in that gap a little bit, provide some color and some texture to the landscape that's out there. Over on Woodside Road and Upper Hilltop, the township owns an open space, sort of a U-shaped lot that goes around the radio tower property. And we had planned just to plant a couple of extra sassafras trees, which there are a number of existing ones already out there, which our landscape architect thought was a little bit unusual, and he thought it would be neat to continue that trend of having a few more sassafras trees. I'm not even sure what a sassafras tree is, even though I've seen them.
Can you make?
But they are unique.
Oh,
Over on Prospect Drive, at the Prospect Farm Development, we have an open space that we have a few areas where additional street trees can be done. We had spec'd out the London plane trees, but after consulting with our landscape architect from HRG, we substituted those with American sycamores, and then threw in some eastern redbuds up along the edge of the existing woods on the open space to provide a colorful backdrop to that wooded area. At the dog park, we had a number of trees, the ones in green as shown in the plan, that were part of our long-range master plan. And the EHC had recommended that it might be beneficial to add some more trees to reestablish that stream buffer along the property. So we plan to add another 10 trees, sweet bay, magnolia, and amelanchier in that stream buffer area. And I have them conceptually shown on here, but when we get out there in the field, we'll figure out where the best location might be to provide the most impact environmentally and visually. A number of our detention basins had trees at one time, but they probably died and weren't replaced. As part of that, we're replacing some street trees on Emerald Drive in that basin, and also sort of filling in the back edge of the one basin with some sweet gum trees. That basin's primarily naturalized in this area, or back in this area, so those would blend in quite nicely. The same with the Hyde Park Place and Big Oak Road Basin. I believe that's Big Oak Woods, if I'm not mistaken. And that development, once again, we're replacing some of the street trees that were there at one time and adding in some trees along Big Oak Road and along the Guzikowski Farm. Same with the Heritage Oaks detention basin. I think it's a 300-foot-long stretch that on the original plan it had trees there. I guess they died off over time, and the thought there is just to replant them to provide some shade in that area.
Jim, I'm sorry. The sweet gums, those are the things that drop the spiky balls,
Yes.
Yes.
and we're not worried about them?
They're in the back of a basin near near a forested area. I had the same thought, but where they are, I think they'd be okay. If they were on a playground, I'd say heck no. We had them on our college campus. They were terrible at late nights on the weekends, walking by, people get pegged with those things.
I just remember when we were changing who could bring stuff to the recycle yard, one resident talked about the sweet gum trees dropping garbage can fulls of those spiky things. So I just,
Yeah, for a detention basin that's partly naturalized up against a wooded area, that's a suitable location for those. Where I used to sit at the pool underneath the tree, and you're in your bare feet, was not a suitable location. Except I got to have my privacy because no one wanted to come talk to me.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage to planting those versus something else?
No, I think the landscape architect just thought that those trees would be beneficial in that
Yeah.
area.
They're a really good native tree for outside of having to step on them, so that's why you keep them out of the way.
They're native tree, they're wet tolerant, so they're good around a basin. They're good at the edge of woods. It's a good tree, it's just the litter that they drop is not suitable in a, like, in certain
Walkable area. Got ya.
You see that? They both advocated for the tree, despite having experiences with the tree. One being thrown on college campus and the other one being hit in a bathing suit. So that there you go.
you're next, Matt.
Over at the pool area, we had taken down a couple of the sweet gum trees that were not fruitless or seedless. They created a lot of litter that maintenance had to clean up constantly, a lot of complaints from patrons. So we're planning to plant some trees there, although I think we're probably going to shift maybe one or two of these trees to be a little further away from the pool so it drops less leaf litter in and around the pool. At the Patterson Farm at the Janney Brown House, where the artist of Yardley we actually cut down a couple of trees last year in the area between the two driveways. The plan there is to replace those with some oaks, or an oak, a couple of sourwoods, and a cucumber magnolia. Hopefully, we're able to get our hands on one to be able to do it. And the cucumber magnolia, you may recall, is one of our heritage trees that's, I think, 68 feet tall behind the Janney Brown House. And then also to plant a few eastern red cedars to sort of provide a little bit of a wind buffer for the house. It's the wind comes whipping off the plains there towards the house, and this might help out at that.
Jim, those few trees that were cut down is because they were diseased or dying, right, or damaged during a storm, if I remember correctly?
I can't remember what it was, but yes, there were reasons to take those
I
down.
remember our Public Works Director showing pictures of some tree damage there.
Yeah. Along Edgewood Road, here in front of the library, next to the Township Building, we had the Bradford pear trees that we had removed earlier this year. As you may recall, Bradford pears are on the Pennsylvania invasive species list. They're trees that are prone to breakages. There's all sorts of problems with them. So we're replacing those with the eastern redbud. I think on our original long-range plan, we had maple trees there, and I know there's some discussion by the board about replacing with something that with color, which eastern redbuds do provide. We did run this by our landscape architect for HRG to give us a couple of recommendations, and this is one of the ones they came up with to put those in this area. Over at Regency, they have the 5-acre open space. As an alternate bid, I had added on 13 trees to replace a number that have died recently. They were planted maybe 5-6 years ago or 3 years ago, and so we're going to put, I think, 13 trees in there. The locations aren't shown on here. We're actually going to work with some of the residents to try to maximize the buffer and at the same time try to minimize maintenance for that. So those locations are to be determined in the field. And then you may recall we planted our 2025 Arbor Day tree in the spring at the Kiowa Baseball Complex at the intersection of Edgewood Road and Oxford Valley Road. That tree has died, and so we plan to replace that tree roughly where it is right now. And that's all I have.
Jim, what are the the warranty on the trees? Is it 1 year or 2?
I figured if we do 1 year, 18 month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of upkeep, watering in that first year or so, is that township doing that, or is someone else doing that to maintain them?
We do it. We probably don't do it as much as we should. I know when we had the drought, I think, was it last year or 2 years ago? Surprisingly, most of the trees made it through, but there were some that died off. There were a few that we thought were dead, and then suddenly this year they came back and they had leaves on them, and which was good news. So,
We're just starting to plant a lot, so we want to make sure we're having some success, so we want to keep an eye on it, see what we can do. So if there's anything between Public Works, Park and Rec, and all the folks that do tree type of work, I guess, if we can come up with a way to keep an eye on them and get water to them to hopefully keep them from dying in the first year or two, that would be great.
Along those lines, I mean, I'm a big fan of the gator bags because not only does it help collect water, but it also helps protect the trees from weed whackers. Have we looked in on last year's tree planting, and are we making sure that whatever replacement trees were owed, we're moving forward with in a timely fashion?
yes.
Okay, because I could start naming them if you want me to, but will they be replaced as part of this? Like, how will they be, when will we see?
That's a different contractor, so that probably won't be till spring.
Okay,
But those are covered, to your point, that those are covered under the last contractor's warranty?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so there was a report that was done by the EAC. I think they went out and did sort of post-planning evaluation, and Jim has that report. I think they're also looking at trying to establish more sort of committee involvement on helping assist with some of the post-planting obligations and sort of observation as well. I think, John, didn't Jim say something about
Putting together.
tree tender group or
Yeah.
something of that nature to try to assist our internal staff with that, given the volume of trees that we have and we're
Perhaps
planting?
getting some public help, too, additional help. Yep. Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to move that we accept the bid from Parkland Landscaping and Hardscape LLC in the amount of $62,991.12.
second.
Fall 2025 tree planting program.
Seconded again.
All right, motion and a second. Any additional board comment? Any public comment? Anyone online or on the phone? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Marczewski.
Thank you.
Looking forward to some tree plantings. Up next is the engineer's report. We're having an update on the stormwater fee study that has been, HRG's been working on for us. So, welcome. Dave, did you have any introduction, or?
I don't. I was just simply going to mention, similar to what you just said, that, this has been a topic of conversation at meetings. The board entered into a professional services agreement with HRG for purposes of this effort, and Tyler Erb is here, who is the project manager from HRG that has implemented these fees throughout various municipalities in the Commonwealth to provide an update on status.
All right. Welcome, Tyler.
Hi, everyone.
Take it away.
Thank you for having me. Okay, perfect. So thanks for that introduction, Dave. As Dave said, we're working on doing a stormwater utility implementation for you guys. Just giving you a quick update here. Taking it back to the basics a little bit with MS4. As you guys are aware, Lower Makefield Township is an MS4 community. So as such, there is a requirement to implement what is called a pollutant reduction plan, or PRP. Essentially, that is a series of stormwater projects to reduce sediment entering local waterways. The township was given 5 years to complete that PRP, and we received notice earlier this year about the future round of MS4, which will be shifting to a volume management. So we are taking that into account, both the current regulations and future regulations, when considering this project. One of the important things that I like to point out with MS4 communities is that there is a section within that permit that states adequate legal authorities and funding shall be maintained in order to implement the permit. So it is a permit requirement to have the funds available to implement. So there's a lot of communities that think, if we can't afford it, it's an acceptable answer, and unfortunately, legally speaking, that is not. So challenges that Lower Makefield is facing, and not just Lower Makefield, it's across the board, but is polluted streams, these increased regulation requirements, and the PRP and projects associated with that, aging infrastructure, development over the course of many years, creating more stormwater runoff and more infrastructure that is required to be maintained, and making sure that it is operating the way it is intended. And then the final challenge is funding to meet all of those requirements. So benefits of a stormwater utility gives you that dedicated stormwater revenue. So the revenue generated can only be used for stormwater-related projects, and it frees up general fund revenue. It's a more equitable way to distribute the costs of the program versus a property tax or something of that nature. And it positions you better for grants and loans. It allows you to have a framework of projects ready to go for grants. So when grants are announced, it becomes very easy to apply for those. So now we're into the gist of the utility. So this timeline is as simple as I can make it, but all of these things are interconnected. So despite the fact that I'm showing them in a first, second, third format, they are worked congruently. But the first step of implementing a utility is developing an impervious area database. So the township worked with Nearmap to develop that, utilizing AI. HRG is currently going through and improving that. AI isn't quite there, but it got us a majority of the way. So we're working on getting that cleaned up a little bit. Budget development, then developing the rate structure for the program, the credit policy, and with the credit policy that is options for residents and business owners to reduce the revenue generated or billed to their property through stormwater control devices, public outreach, and then ultimately the billing implementation. So where are we now? Impervious area, we received that data from Nearmap. There's an example up there of what that impervious area looks like. Ultimately, it is just aerial imagery with all of the impervious surfaces mapped out, so that way we can get a square footage associated with each parcel. We're expecting to have our portion of that finalized by the end of this month. In the meantime, we have been utilizing the information that Nearmap provided just to get things rolling. And we have been working on developing a budget with township staff. The current budget, albeit in draft form, is an average revenue requirement of $2.1 million per year. And again, that is taking into account the activities that the township or the stormwater program would be taking on as far as maintaining the system, as well as the PRP projects and future VMP or volume management projects. So where are we going next? So the next step for us is to determine the rate structure. So there's two different options for rate structure. There's the ERU option, or equivalent residential unit, or a tiered structure. So for both of these structures that we have been evaluating so far, we're assuming properties below 300 square feet are not going to be assessed a fee. We consider those to not be developed parcels. They don't have enough impervious on them to warrant sending a bill for the impervious. You spend more in sending, through the mail than you would get returned. But with an ERU approach, all single-family residential properties would pay the same rate, and we determine that based on the land use codes. So, the single family is really a true single-family home. So there's some situations where like apartments and things of that nature would not fall into that category. Any other property that would be receiving a bill that is not considered a residential property would pay multiples of that ERU. So let's say an ERU is 3,000 square feet. There's a property with 6,000 square feet. They would pay twice the amount because they have twice that impervious. The tiered approach breaks into impervious area groups where each property then is assessed a fee based on the amount of impervious on that property and where it falls within that grouping range. So you would have ranges, say 2,000 square feet of impervious area, have 2 or 3 tiers of that. 0 to 2,000 would pay, or sorry, 300 to 2,000 would pay a rate. 2 to 4 would pay a rate, 4 to 6, and then above that would be a separate rate. We anticipate getting started on that credit and appeal manual.
Yeah, Tyler, I don't know if we want to pause. There may be,
Please feel free to interrupt me.
These are, I think this is, some of sort of the touch point and sort of direction we were hoping for from the Board of Supervisors. As Tyler said, there's a couple different ways to do this, and just want to, again, assess. There's pluses and minuses to both. And so if we could just pause and maybe see if we have any reaction on some of those assumptions and some of potential approaches and structures.
And I think this will be the biggest question that our residents have too, is how is this going to be assessed, and is it justifiable, honestly? And then if they are doing something at their property that is beneficial, how do they get credit for that?
Sure.
I guess my knee-jerk reaction is to say tiered because it's seemingly the most equitable, right? You pay based on what you have, what impact you have. I'm curious, and other towns do both ways, so I'm curious what the experience has been in those municipalities that use the ERU approach versus the tiered approach relative to the success of the program, public pushback on the program, costs potentially associated with doing the math and putting out bills that are not all the same, and tracking that, and all the things around that. I was wondering if you could touch on that a bit.
Yeah, and Tyler, if you could also maybe provide just some context on the township, particularly in terms of sort of the single-family designation and the percentage of parcels that fall within that realm versus the non-single family.
And I'll jump on that one too, in terms of, we have a lot of multifamilies, we have commercial properties, we have different land use types that aren't just single families, and how those other types of properties are addressed in each approach there.
Yeah, because some of those things that you may be thinking of variations to single family actually fall under that single family definition from a land use code perspective. Okay. So condos, for example, which you maybe, what do you do with a condo association? Those would all fall in that single-family bucket. Is that correct, based on land use code?
Yep.
Okay. So
So-
maybe just provide a little bit of color on some of that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm just going to take it back a slide here to talk on the kind of land use code aspect of it quick. So the black lines that you see on here are the parcel boundaries. That's really what we care about. As long as there is a parcel mapped, then we can assign an IA portion to that parcel or a designation to it. So with condos and things, you know, it isn't with every community that the condos are perfectly mapped, but typically they are mapped where each condo is its own parcel, and that way we can assign a fee to it that way. So that would be considered a single-family residential property. In regards to other communities and what I've seen, you're correct, it's kind of across the board. It depends on the community, and my recommendation is dependent on that community as well. Now, as Dave was alluding here, there's a significant portion of your community that is single-family residential, higher than I have seen in any other community that I've worked in.
92%.
Yeah.
92% of every parcel.
We actually re-ran it, and it jumped up to 95.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's very significant. So with that in mind, the aspect of maintaining the program and sending different bills out and appeals and all of that does get significantly more simplified with the ERU approach versus the tiered approach. With the tiered approach, there's potential for a property to add impervious or remove impervious that will adjust them. So there's kind of that constant ebb and flow of maintaining the billing data and making sure a property's in the correct tier that it should be assigned to.
In the case of a condo where it's multi-floor, right? I don't have a specific parcel, and we do have a number of those, right? I'm on the second floor, my friend's on the third floor. Would we all be billed an ERU then in that environment?
That would be the case, correct?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, that's a trade-off in fairness between, somebody who might have a 3-acre property with, huge impervious, just in terms of fairness.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, that's the flip side of that coin, right? Where when you do the ERU approach, it does simplify the program. It makes it a lot more manageable from an administrative perspective. But you do have, the situation where you are looping all single-family residential properties together, and there can be a variance between them. That being said, you'll have that in the tiered as well. It's just a lot more, small of a gap.
Have you ever seen like a hybrid approach where it's a ERU for anything over a certain parcel, or, I don't even know how to define it, and then a tiered for others?
Yeah, I have not. I've seen an approach where they classified the tiers based on multiples of ERUs. So if you were in, tier 1, it's a half ERU, tier 2, it's a full 3, would be 1.5, but I have not.
That's a tier.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm wondering if there's some way, to John's example of, either condos or smaller homes where they might, have some kind of tier.
Yeah, well, we're all, I think the idea is we're all looking for something that's equitable. Because we have all different types of home types here in the town, right? I'm curious, have you run an analysis yet for either approach to see what the numbers might be per household, to see if is there a real delta between the two approaches?
Yeah, so we have ran the numbers, but there is the significant asterisk of we're still cleaning up the AI data set, or the IA data set, sorry. So with the ERU approach, in the current budget, we're seeing around $12.50 per month. The tiered approach, it depends how many tiers you would implement, but if you would do a 2-tiered approach and have a cutoff around 45 or 5,000, it does drop that to around $9 or $10. The more tiers you add, the more variance you'll have between the lowest and the midpoint. But
3 or $4
Significant
a
is,
month either side of $12 you're looking at,
yeah, give or take.
depending on the size of the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that is, again, with the asterisks.
No, understood. I'm just want
Yeah.
to start to wrap our heads around
Sure.
what
No,
the difference
absolutely.
is in practice between the two. And then in terms of tracking that, obviously you use the AI tools through Nearmap, and then you have someone actually looking at it to see.
Mm-hmm.
I know I looked at a couple of them when we got access to Nearmap and said, okay, I know that's not
Yeah.
impervious and
We-
whatever. It was close, but it wasn't.
We noticed a lot of issue with like sports fields, as far as like tennis courts, basketball courts, and things of that nature. I think the AI got very confused as far as what was green pavement versus grass. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's,
I get that. Okay, so you're gonna, and your timeframe for, so we have budget meetings coming up in the next few weeks. You know, we have a budget we get a vote on by, over the course of the next couple months. Trying to get this addressed for this budget, it sounds like. And it sounds like we know you've been working with staff to develop that base. It sounds like, I keep saying sounds like, $2 million, 2.1, I think is the average per.
The average
year.
revenue need over an extended period of time.
Over
Again,
over
the
5
model contemplates, and again, we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but the model currently contemplates the assessment of a rate and then sort of rate stabilization for a period of time
And
before the
that's what I'm
need for
getting
any
at.
rate
Yeah.
adjustment. Is that correct?
correct. Yeah, we're looking at a steady rate for 5 years at minimum.
Okay. And some of that, we have the ability to adjust that based on contemplated projects that could fall under this program in either direction, up or down. And then, because that's one of the concepts behind this, the stormwater fee, is that it's based on actual planned projects, not just a revenue source for having a revenue source.
Correct.
Right? So we have to come up with that plan.
Yeah, we have a known obligation, as we talked about before, and then there's some assumptions that are built into the model that would permit some adjustment from year to year if need be, but your model's saying flat rate.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about in sort of the rate structure, whether we're 92, 95% single-family home, the question I have is around that 5% to 8% that's commercial or, or retail, what have you. What percent of the impervious surface is coming from that category of property? And the reason I say that is many of the properties are largely impervious. You think of large parking lots with shopping centers, for example, although we don't have a lot of them. That's a significant issue. And so if those 5% maybe represent, say, 15% of the total IA in the township, they should probably pay about 15% of the fee. I'm not saying that's the case, right? I don't know. But it would be curious from a fairness perspective if you were to say, those categories to say, we've analyzed this, we think properties in this category represent this amount, and under our proposed fee modeling, we think they're going to pay about this amount, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that we want to bias for or against commercial. I just want to know to make sure that we're roughly fair among folks.
Yeah, so.
Have you looked, we didn't discuss that issue. You have the data in order to be able to do that, though.
I don't have that data at this point. Once we finalize that data set, I will have that and I can get that to you.
Yeah.
But I will say that the way we build the rate structure, at its simplest form, is we create a rate per 1,000 square feet of impervious area. And then we utilize that throughout all of our rate setting process. So we're looking at a rate that, when it boils down to it, is a per 1,000 square feet assessment. So.
But you'll have a data set that will have each parcel number, the zoning of that parcel number, and the amount of IA and the total size?
Correct, yep.
Okay, so then you could run a quick crosstab and get your, that would
Yeah,
give me
yeah,
all
we can absolutely
That
pull,
would be-
percent of impervious in each group.
Yeah, that raw data would be interesting. I don't need to know people's names or any of that stuff.
Sure,
I'm just
yeah.
more interested.
I'll get you the summary.
Yeah,
Well, related to that, that's percent of an area. Commercial properties also tend to be more concentrated. And when you have concentrated impervious, you have more impacts to, to water features, to streams and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see in those areas where they're highly concentrated, in addition to having a lot of impervious, what their relative impact is on our water resources, and see if we could.
Yeah, I
consider
mean,
that.
so there's a flip side of that too, where that's the most beneficial place to put a project to improve water quality then. So, they have the most impact, but they also have the most potential to offset that impact.
Yeah.
So,
Along those lines, and this is probably a question for our solicitor on this, which is, are there any rules on rate setting that it's not that we want to, we're not suggesting we would bias it in any way. We're just saying, if we said, hey, can we put more of the burden on commercial versus residential, is there anything stopping us from doing that? Meaning, could we do it based on type of property or zoning of the property?
I'm not 100% sure of the answer, but I believe that the answer would probably be no. You
Okay,
can't
so-
differentiate.
So we would have to be based on some assessment of what the IA is or the percentage of IA. Because you could argue, it would be a very interesting case to say, okay, you could combine, this would get complex, but total amount of impervious plus some factor based on your percentage, right? So if you're 80% impervious, well, you should pay a lot more than somebody who might be 30% impervious, even if they have the same amount of impervious.
So typically, we see that work in the inverse, where instead of saying you should pay more, it's if you're below a certain percentage of impervious, then you get a reduced rate.
Okay.
So we call that a low-impact parcel credit.
Okay.
So, yeah, we do take that into account. And we run an analysis to see, where that kind of significant point is, that if you're below this, then you're in the lowest, X percent of properties, and then automatically apply that from the beginning.
Relate to that. So our more modern parcels, right, our more modern developments have some level of stormwater management designed into them, because that's what the regulations have required.
Right.
We also have a lot of commercial properties and probably some older homes that have none, because they predated all these rules. Are those considered any different? Are they considered any differently typically in the?
So we strongly recommend including at minimum a stormwater peak rate and volume control credit. And that credit would take into account the properties that have, stormwater detention basins or some sort of stormwater management on site that offset the development of that parcel. That then is tied to the budget on we take a look at the budget and see what portion is fixed and what is variable due to the regulations, and then provide a percent credit based on that, the budget, the property, and how much impervious they're treating on the property. So if they're treating 50% of their impervious, then they would get 50% of that max credit, assuming they meet all the other criteria.
We have unique properties in this town that love their swimming pools, because we have impervious thresholds. And a lot of folks with swimming pools will go to the zoning hearing board because they've gone over their impervious threshold. And the response is to put in some type of BMP to treat some delta in the impervious above the threshold. I'm not going to use the word that people like to use at the zoning hearing board. Is that is, so they've already gone to the zoning hearing board, gotten special dispensation to do that. Is that something that you would put into this credit thing, or would you?
Yeah,
say-
so-
We talked about that issue as well, so go ahead.
Yeah, it would be something that the applicant would, or the parcel owner would need to apply to receive. So we wouldn't automatically provide any of those credits, but once we, get the program rolling, we would have a credit portion, and they would apply, and anything on, an individual property, whether it be a commercial property or a single-family residential property, would be eligible for that, to the extent that their BMP is managing stormwater. So it takes into account that peak rate versus volume, and how much impervious is being treated.
So we'd also have to come up with an approach to verify that it's working the way they're saying it is.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, that it's maintained the way it's supposed to be, and potentially that could even get into something like O&M easement of some type to maintain it over time.
Yeah, I mean, you talked a little bit about, some of the challenges. This has been a circumstance, obviously, that has existed in this approach that people have taken at the
Right.
zoning hearing board level. And so we talked a little bit about that, and Tyler said, again, the affirmative action to apply for a credit will provide us with a mechanism to capture the data that we may not, like, we don't keep track of that information currently. That doesn't address the issue that you're talking about in terms of function and verifying function and those kinds of things. So we'll have to talk through.
Because we've started to address that at zoning hearing board by requiring,
Requiring an O&M agreements.
Yeah. Not all of them, that's new though, relatively speaking.
Yeah, and again, in terms of enforcement of those O&M agreements, that's the other sort of challenge, right? Just because you have an agreement doesn't necessarily mean that it's being maintained consistent with the operation and maintenance requirements.
Yeah. So
If it becomes a problem, then you have a mechanism to address, but you're not doing inspections or annual inspections associated with it.
I guess I lean a little bit towards, when we get into that level of nuance, to just like say, you know what, there's no guarantees there. We should probably just keep it simple. But that's my first thought.
But it could give us the opportunity to mandate O&M for people who request a credit. So we could use the credit or appeal process for these people, because I've been the liaison in zoning hearing board. James has been the chair of the zoning hearing board. Every time someone comes for a pool, they always promise they're going to have a pool party, they're going to invite the zoning hearing board. James, have you ever been invited to a pool party?
I can't speak on the matter.
Well, then at least you got one, right?
Maybe.
It's the value of being the chairperson.
Exactly.
That's
Value of being the chairperson.
That's what
All
it
I'm
is.
saying is that.
Can't recall it.
You can't recall. But what's happened is typically somebody, they're very excited about their pool, they say they're going to do all these things, but then they don't follow up. And if this is a chance for us to use this as a way to say, hey, we're going to check.
The other benefit that Tyler had spoke about when we were discussing this issue has to do with even meeting our regulatory obligations. So in theory, reduction requirements are established based on, modeling, if you will, to a certain extent. We've not captured those, say, structural BMPs that are on individual properties that have been required to be installed as part of the zoning hearing board process. So there could be some value from a community standpoint, again, requiring that affirmative action by the property owner to submit the information, to substantiate or to document and substantiate its function. But there could also be benefit not only to that individual property owner, but also collectively to the community when there's calculations of requirements for reduction. Is that fair?
Correct, yeah. So and again, this is all based on the draft permit, but we're anticipating the need to have a BMP inventory more substantial than previously required to reduce the amount of impervious area required to be treated. So if you have, all these small BMPs, by themselves, they're not going to amount to a lot, but if you have an entire community full of, infiltration pits in the backyard, that is meaningful. So by requiring, documentation of this through this program, you would have that information. And similarly, we see a lot of communities utilize this as getting O&Ms in place, and also part of the permit continuing to be viable is submitting inspection reports for that as well.
I mean, that's a great point as well. I mean, a condition of the application or the granting of a credit could be a requirement to have an O&M agreement in place for a facility that's been installed prior to the requirement for an O&M.
And these things are really simple typically. Like I used to help run PWD's backyard buffer program. That's essentially what these are.
Right.
So we'll need to develop some go-bys for people because
Sure.
not everyone wants to hire an engineer to go design come up with an O&M.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and the more simple, BMPs, we don't need the engineered drawings for. We just need to know like the size of the infiltration pit, and like somebody would have to have stamped it at some point, but we don't need a discussion with the engineer to get that accounted for.
Okay.
So we have at least one development that has an HOA where it maintains their responsibility for their stormwater management. They would get the same ERU as everybody else, theoretically? I mean, if we went that way, ERU versus tiered, but
Whatever, I think the idea, yes. 'Cause, I mean, the township main 150 or so, Jim, basins? So like, whether it be the basin, a lot of the basins that service specific developments,
Yeah, but
for whatever reason, Lower Makefield has taken them over. It's not like that in every town, but there are a few that have stayed private, but they're still operating as basins. So either, so we're still all responsible to deal with them, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll talk about where I live. Like, I believe the township is maintaining that basin, but there is a development on the north side of the township where they have a homeowners association. The only reason they have it is because when that development was approved, they took on the responsibility of their stormwater management. So those homeowners are already contributing to something, but they would nonetheless also pay an ERU.
So typically, in situations where it's a township-owned basin and being maintained by the township, we would not provide a credit for that because the cost is already being
Right.
incurred.
No, I
But
get that.
In that situation where an HOA is paying for basin maintenance and upkeep, typically what we see, because it is servicing, multiple parcels, is that the HOA applies on behalf of all of the residents within the development. So then they would provide us with a list of all of the, parcel IDs or addresses that should be eligible for the credit. We do an assessment for the overall development rather than an individual parcel and provide that amount of credit to the parcels in that community.
And then when the first thing for properties below 300 square feet, does that mean like a property that has just a shed on it?
If the shed is below 300 square feet, yeah, they would not be assessed a fee.
So is that actually a thing for us? Because I mean, when I look at it, I'm like, we can't possibly have any of those in the township because it's basically the size.
Yeah, this is what we would consider an undeveloped parcel. So, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to have a development on it, but if there isn't anything there either, it would be, they would not receive a bill.
So if you own a piece of property that is not developed, you would not receive a bill, essentially.
Correct.
I think it'll be really helpful as we move forward to try to make this as plain for people like me who don't really understand it as possible. At first, I thought that meant, if there were if we were thinking about stacked housing where there are multiple apartments, like I thought, oh, well, maybe that takes them out of each getting hit for the same amount, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and that is something that, we do have to do an analysis on to see how the condos are mapped. So that 300 square feet might have to shift a little bit, but the intent is for that to be geared towards undeveloped parcels so that, large open spaces or even small open spaces are not getting assessed a fee. But we can definitely work on clarifying that language.
So what do you think are next steps?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to provide some
Yeah.
context on, and you and I had this conversation about,
Yes.
sort of tier versus ERU and sort of the decision point associated with that and the ability to sort of transition at this point. We're still, as I understand it, still at a point in time where that transition would be easily made at some point.
Yeah,
That
it becomes a little bit more
difficult. So can you just maybe provide some commentary on that, just so that the board has an understanding that, again, if we go so many steps forward, then it becomes a little bit more challenging to sort of reverse course?
Yeah, so it's mostly with, especially with a kind of tight time frame that we have here, with starting to develop all of the other materials. So we can develop a lot of other materials, such as the public outreach materials and things, without that information. But once we start going down a path for which billing structure we're going with, coming back and changing things kind of causes that cascading effect. So once we have that determined, the quicker we can kind of solidify other things, such as the credit policy, frequently asked questions documents, just general outreach materials, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I mean, that information is always, yesterday is the best, today is better, and go from there. But as soon as we have some clarity on those kinds of materials, we can start moving things forward. But as far as where we're going from here, obviously we're going to finalize the IA data set and the budget. We're looking to get those finalized and then have the budget and credit policy to you at the November meeting. So
The first November?
the second.
Second. All right. So that means we don't, when do you need us to?
If you need it at the first, I can reorganize some things, but.
Yeah, well, I just want to give, to your point, I want to get the board to come up,
Sure.
have some consensus, and then give you enough time, give staff enough time to actually implement, to create those databases and get those numbers going and get those other things going so that we have, it can get implemented. But
Yeah, I mean, I think we can have the budget ready for the first meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a pretty good spot, I think, with that. I mean, it's, again, you have some manipulation of the IA, but I think we're,
Right.
in terms of capturing existing costs, proposed cost, I think we're in a pretty good spot from a budget model perspective.
Yeah, and then we can have some, I would like to say that I can have, the rates for you by that first meeting. It is a little bit dependent on when my GIS team can get that data back to me. But they have confidence that it should be faster than what they told me originally. So we'll say the likelihood is there that I can have some rates ready for that first meeting as well. If you want to kind of look at them at that meeting, and then we can
yeah, well, I think that's what we need. We need to see it in real life, like some real life examples of the two basic rate structures, right?
Sure.
And then obviously if there's credits we can consider and all that stuff. But personally, it's always nice to see the numbers and get some examples of different scenarios. So we can say, okay, this one sounds good, this one sounds better than that one, or we thought this one might be better, but when we look at the numbers, maybe this one is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So the sooner
absolutely.
we can have something like that, then we can give you better direction, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I think we can have something
Yeah.
ready for the first meeting in November.
Because then we got to vote on the budget and all that other stuff, so that this is
Right.
all part and parcel of the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's the timelines are all intertwined.
Yes, they are. Okay.
So, okay. Well, that's all I have
That's
for you
everything,
guys.
yeah? Well, thank you. Any other board, I know we covered a lot of stuff on the fly here. Any other board comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Come on. So, yeah, come on up. So, standard deal, just like public comment, please state your name, whether or not you're resident, and please direct your comments to the board, but we'll
You, Larissa Luzecki, Lower Makefield. Dan, did I hear you correctly? You said that the revenue generated from the stormwater fee, you have a number of planned projects you have in mind that you would be applying this to, or you don't know yet?
So I think, and I can start generally, and then our manager. So as part of the budget process and as part of our long-term capital project planning, there are some we have to do as part of the pollution reduction plan. That's just part of the MS4 permit. Those are a series of projects that we have to do to clean up our streams, essentially, is what that's for. Others are other capital projects that we, maybe there's some culvert replacement, not the Highland Drive one, which I know you're so familiar with, but other types of projects, kind of sort of like that, maybe not that scale, that I think our Public Works Director probably has in mind and maybe presenting during the budget process. And then others are, I think this fee can be applied to some of the administrative costs associated with that too.
Sure.
Which is also helpful. And then other projects come up that may or may not be an emergency, but we identify along the way because of work that the Public Works team or someone else is doing that they see while they're out there, because all this stuff is underground, and at some point it may see the light of day. And then there's other stuff that I'm sure our township manager could add.
So, and Tyler, you could help with this as well, because some of it, again, feeds into the modeling that you're doing and in terms of rapid assessment and so forth, and some of the condition assessment that's contemplated in the budget. In terms of capital projects, though, we have existing regulatory obligations to implement projects that are contained within a Department of Environmental Protection approved pollution reduction plan as part of this permit cycle. So not even future stuff, but stuff that relates to current compliance that I think is in the neighborhood of about 4 to probably $4.5 million of capital projects that, again, are already identified in that pollution reduction plan. So a lot of them are basin retrofits, taking existing basins, reconstructing channels, retrofitting those to, implement green infrastructure components. All of that is already established. That we have an obligation. That plan is, those projects are not, there's some flexibility, but we have a plan that sets forth, this is what we have to do within a certain period of time. To be honest, we're behind in terms of implementation from a permitting cycle. So when we're talking about compression of time, we're also compressed on that. Now, if we're making good faith, and you can speak to this, if we're making good faith efforts to meet our obligations, generally there's some degree of flexibility. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but it's not something that the permit requirements are no longer just paper-based permit requirements. There's physical improvements that must be done. So maybe.
As far as the good faith effort, we have seen DEP be a little bit lenient on the schedule for implementation as long as there is a plan to implement, and you can point to progress being made. So that's not to say that putting things off is a great idea.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want to say that,
Yeah.
and that's not guaranteed either. But
Correct.
it's part of the strategy in terms of compliance.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to? I mean, in terms of just system assessment.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the main things that the program is anticipating is a rapid infrastructure assessment of the system, so we can see where the problem areas are and determine where to best allocate funds to make sure that those problem areas are addressed in a systematic way. There isn't necessarily a designated, we need this inlet, that pipe, and all those things, although Public Works does have, a running list of the worst offenders currently. But based on, the evidence that we find from that, then we would make that schedule and determine, where to allocate those funds.
You know why I'm asking? Because, we need additional work done. Highland is great, but it's a good start. We need, more work done in our area in Maple Vale. So I don't know if that's how we fit in this. Do we fit in this?
It's all part and parcel of the same thing. Honestly, my personal view is a lot of those, not just Mapleville and not just that area, but a lot of the township has gone way too long without improvements to infrastructure. It is what it is. It's what we've inherited, and this is part of the plan to address it. So this is a great tool that we have. It's not the magic elixir per se, but it gives us a great tool to start funding those projects more quickly, and that's why we want to implement this. And it's not, and I think you already know this, but it's not a fee to just collect revenue for the township. We go spend it on something totally unrelated to stormwater. This is made specific to focus on these types of infrastructure projects that I know you understand are necessary. So that's the goal here.
So again, it's very similar to some of the data sort of driven decision making that the five of you have tried to promote, whether it's using Violytics from a roadway assessment standpoint. Having reoccurring revenue enables us to proactively assess, address, and implement, whereas we've not had that reoccurring revenue dedicated to specific areas or specific purposes. But again, the five of you, I'm not just blowing, you guys have done a good job in trying to identify dedicated revenue sources to address things in a way that's not reactive, that's more strategic, that's driven by data and information to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And Ms. Luzecki, I would say that you may see certain projects that might be to the north or the west of your neighborhood and not think they're going to have an impact.
No, we know.
Okay.
Yeah, we
And
understand
expect that
It's-
we'll be thinking
We're not in a
through.
bubble. We share.
Yeah.
So, anything work you've done and are continue to do around us will only help to improve our situation, so we appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We used to walk by each other's houses, but now there's a big hole between.
Do they fill it up with the spiky balls?
Oh, not yet. That's funny. I like that.
We can recycle the sweet gum.
Yeah, we just throw them at each other.
Hi, Lori Gray. I am a Lower Makefield Township resident, so I'm just going to ask the question I always ask and didn't ask it after Jim spoke. But is this presentation going to be on the website? I know you can view it on the YouTube video. I get that, but
Yeah, we
when I
can-
do my update to the
We can
that'd be
update.
great. And the
or
same
upload
with
to
Jim's.
the-
I think I
Yep.
guess the question just overall is, should I just assume that when anybody ever does a presentation up here, or should I not assume that? and ask
Yeah,
you?
I mean, generally we do, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always, it doesn't hurt to remind us to do
Okay,
that.
all right.
But
And then I
yes.
just want to make sure I understand, because it's a lot of information, and so on the where that the equity one, or the, single, everybody gets the same if it's a residential. So if we all have a 3/4 acre property, one person has an in-ground pool, a shed, great huge swing set and all that, the other person has nothing, they would both, if that was the single-use rate structure, they would both pay the same regardless. I just want to make sure I have that clear in my mind. Is that how I understand it?
Yes.
Okay, great. How do we deal with township properties?
They would also be assessed a fee.
They would, and who pays that?
We would have to pay that
So
fee.
the taxpayer.
Correct,
The
yes.
taxpayers also would have to pay whatever the town, okay, so the township would also get assessed a fee.
Mm-hmm.
Would we know, as a resident, would we know, like, we would know our own, so would we also know what the township would be charged, or is that just a line in the budget, or I don't know how that would work.
I mean, it would probably just be a line in the budget.
Okay.
What do,
Yeah,
in terms of, I mean, again, we're getting
Right, in the
in the
just.
weeds a little bit, but
Yeah.
I was trying to remember what the,
So I wouldn't expect it to be, like a list that you could just go online and take a look at. But that's something that the township could, in theory, we could pull that number and that could be shared publicly. There's a multitude of ways that we could do that. If you have interest to do that, we can definitely help you out with that.
And Ms. Gray, it also, if we're assessed the fee based on impervious area, that may encourage us as a board to look at options to get our own credit by doing other stormwater projects on township property, which would bring the fee down for taxpayers and
Yep.
all that stuff.
Great
So-
point. That's a great point, yeah. Okay. All right, and what fund would that get paid? Is that the general fund that would get paid?
that would be a separate stormwater utility fee, fund. So again, revenue would go into the fund. It would be dedicated for, you're saying in terms of our payment?
Yeah.
Our payment would come probably from the general fund.
From the general fund?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
So I do want to just make one quick clarification that we are not planning to assess a fee for roadway surfaces. So all of the state and township-owned roads would not be included in that. It would just be the parcels themselves.
Okay, thank
Could we,
you.
if we want?
Could we bill pen?
Sorry.
Why not?
I mean, nothing's impossible. Will they pay? That's a different story.
Yeah. Wow.
Have you done that in other municipalities?
Yeah, not for the road surfaces, but, areas where PennDOT does have like salt sheds or things, we do assess a fee for that. State-owned properties, federal-owned properties, all.
Joint Toll Bridge Commission, they would all, again, that's the value of a fee. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a utility fee. It's not a tax.
Do we have any private
School
roads in town?
districts,
School district, yeah.
houses of worship. Everybody.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks. In looking at the data, do we have any private roads? In the
There are some private roads that are located on the parcel, in which case those would be assessed for that road
Right.
surface.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Tyler, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Keep up the
Thanks,
good
Tyler.
work.
Yep.
Tell those GIS guys to speed up, right? All right. Item number 9 is finance. I think, one, we have the third quarter report in our packets, so if there's any questions, we can ask.
That is correct, yep.
And then, jump
Mike?
back to A, we're looking at budget workshops next month and before we vote on the budget, so you want to?
That is correct. Do you mind just sharing sort of what the intent is for those?
Hello, good evening. So November 6th and November 10th are our budget workshops. The first budget workshop, honestly, both of them are going to be probably a little bit different than what you guys are used to. We're going to try a new method, just something I've done in the past, and I think might be helpful, hopefully. So the first budget workshop is going to be mostly a presentation by me highlighting the whole budget draft, more on the financial side. It'll focus on where we're at currently, along with any normal year-over-year increases that we have, like salary and wages and any inflation-related items. And then we would have department heads present if they have any changes. For example, if they're requesting headcount or any different changes from where we're at today, then they would present on those items. So it should be pretty quick overall. I mean, and we'll be providing you guys a draft budget of everything ahead of time as well, on the side.
I mean, obviously, if you have questions on any individual line items, we would address that, but that's the intent. Were you asking what time on the? I thought
7 p.m.
7 p.m.,
Okay.
yeah.
What format will you be providing the budget in this year? Will it be in Excel? Is searchable? Previous years, we've gotten all kinds of different versions that maybe weren't
So it'll be
searchable or-
a printed PDF, and I can also provide it to you in Excel or a PDF document, however you would like it.
Excel would be, personally, I appreciate Excel, so it's searchable and
Yeah, no worries.
filterable
Yeah,
and
I
all
can
that
give you
stuff.
guys that version as
Appreciate
well. No problem. And then as far as the second workshop, it'll focus mostly on capital, just so we can be on top of that. And your first draft of the budget, just to let you know as well, you'll see projections for capital for this year based on where we're at, but you will not see future planned projects unless it's been planned and moved over from this year. We'll be discussing all of that in the second workshop and then going from there with adding.
So the intent is to, again, focus on where we're at from an operational perspective before we start discussing the insertion of capital
Yep.
projects. And now, again, there's, as Mega said,
The groundwork.
there's some things that have already been started that will have sort of residuals, if you will, that we'll have to plan for. But in terms of new capital spend, the intent is to try to show, here's where we are operationally, and then at that point, there's choices, to be made both on the operational and capital side.
Correct. And you'll get to see a better picture of where we're at first before we add in those capital projects.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any other questions or
I know Suzanne
any
had a-
feedback?
Unrelated to the budget per se, but still in your wheelhouse, where are we with the audit, the outside audit?
So 2024, it's unfortunately a little bit delayed compared to what I was hoping for. We're actually relying on the auditors. Everything's in, they have everything, they've had everything since June, July. June. We're just waiting on them. Their schedules have been mixed up this year, I think just based on who they've already had in the pipeline and our 23 being late and then pushing out. So they're hoping, I think in the next month or two that we'll have something. The draft should be very soon. They've been coming back and forth with us on some questions, but for the most part, they're saying everything looks good. So I'm hoping end of the next month-ish. I wish they would give me a timeline. They're not, unfortunately.
Are they contractually obligated to meet any deadlines on?
There's not real
No.
contractual obligations. I mean, some of this is just a function of the availability of governmental auditors. I mean,
Correct.
people continue to get
nature.
out of that space. I mean, even when we were going
Correct.
through the RFP, for example, we were broadly reaching out to firms, and they just don't have the capacity. It's just less folks going into that field, and so that's in part. Again, some of the delays with the prior year ends up pushing us back from a
Yeah.
scheduling standpoint. That being said, I'd just like to publicly recognize sort of the work that Mega's doing in terms of cleanup. It has been a lot, and so I do want to express sort of appreciation. And I do think we are, you'll notice just in terms of the cleanness of the information that you'll see on the budget side, but also on the audit side, it's just, there's been a lot of work. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Yeah, so hopefully, if not the next month, definitely before the end of the year. That's my ultimate goal. We need to get that in. We need to turn it into the DCED as well. That's their last deadline. And then hopefully, with that being said, we can be on time with 25. I'm hoping we can start right away in the new year. So, all right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. You guys have the third quarter with you as well. If you have any other questions on that, let me know.
Yeah, and then Lori will be posting that quarterly report online as well, so just so you're aware. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, those are public meetings.
They
Yep,
are
yep,
public
yep,
meetings.
yep.
So,
Thank you.
and in terms of process, we're going to have two workshops that you see on the agenda tonight. Then we'll actually have, we're not going to be voting on the budgets at those meetings. We're going to have our normal Board of Supervisors meetings after that, where we'll vote on the budget, and then it has to be done by, second meeting in December, it has to be fully adopted?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Correct.
So the next several meetings you'll enjoy because you love budgets, so stay tuned. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
All right, item 10, Manager's Report. This is an update on the Memorial Park Phase 3 improvements, as well as anything else the manager needs to report.
Sure. Will, you want to come up? Will's here with Carroll Engineers. As the board is aware, this is a project that's funded through a statewide local share grant award in the amount of $900,000 to make improvements to Memorial Park, Phase 3 of that project. Again, as we've talked about in the past, the deadline for this project to spend these funds is relatively tight. Right now, it's the end of June of 2026. Again, will outline a schedule that meets those, a tentative schedule that meets those deadlines. I know there was a question about the ability for an extension. We have reached out to DCD to see about the potential of an extension. They have not gotten back to us yet, but we will follow up on that issue. So in the interest of time, and Will has a brief presentation for you, just outlining the work that's been done to date, the options and sort of concepts. We need to sort of make a decision on a concept. There is some flexibility with the concepts, but just the overall concept, we gotta keep it moving. So
This isn't necessarily a vote on anything, it's give some
that is-
direction on concepts and move things
that is
forward.
correct. That is correct.
All right,
Yep.
make sure that's clear.
So as he's getting started, I know there was some discussion at the Park and Rec Board about, equipment choices, those kinds of things. There's still flexibility in some of those aspects. Obviously, there are dimensional aspects associated with equipment, but that may impact Will's design. But yes, Dan, to your point, it's just concept. There's still some flexibility in terms of determination of equipment and the
And
like.
this isn't the first time we've had these discussions. We've been talking about
Correct.
for a couple of years now in terms of layouts. Okay.
No, not a problem.
It's an iPad, yeah. This is the option 3.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Better screen.
Oh,
That's why I'm looking over your shoulder.
there we go, yeah. Give it a second to resolve because it's big. There you
That's
go.
the existing bathroom. And
Yeah.
That's the existing
Those are the picnic tables,
Yeah.
yeah.
building there.
Yep,
Okay.
here it goes. If I do this, you'll.
Well, you don't have it on a flash drive, or? So, Dave, do you want to, can we just use the computer that's here that has the software installed?
So I gotta ask you, Abington, did you beat them on Friday? Oh my God, it's tough this year.
If the presentation can't work, does it make sense to move it to another meeting? Only because, we've seen it, but the public hasn't.
I mean, we do need to give direction, so.
Can you talk it through?
Yeah, we can talk it through.
Okay.
You should all have a plan set or have seen a plan set.
We have PDFs on our end.
Great.
Could you use one of our computers? Or is it
What we're using right now is not, it's the click share itself.
oh, it's just the click share?
a HDMI cable out the back of the
He just rebooted the click share. He wants you to retry.
But there's HDMI coming.
You might be able to connect directly to the thing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pull the plan set.
Okay. I mean, if you want him to get started with some of his, I don't know if he's,
Yeah, so, can we get a little intro as to where we've been, just to get things moving?
Yeah, so what's going on so far is,
Make sure you're close to your microphone, or he's going to turn the red light on us.
Oh, you have to have the green light on. You have to, yep.
There we go. I think
There
we're
you go.
good now.
We're good.
All right. Like I said, I'm Will Daggett from Carroll Engineering. I've been helping with this project. We received the RFP, as you said, for that $900,000. That was received March 31st of 2023, and it has a completion and reimbursement deadline of June 30th, 2026. So we need to finish construction by then and reimburse all contractors involved. We had a kickoff meeting, came up with, we looked at the initial concept plan that was provided from Boucher and James originally, and then RVE, and it went through some iteration. As you can see on all the plan sets, we've been calling the east and the west side. The west would include the 2 to 5-year-old playground, and then the east side would be the pickleball, tennis courts, and that open area and parking lot to the north of it. The original RFP asked for all the improvements to be on the east side. We initially talked that through, discussed it, and then through further evaluation, we realized, hey, that the parking on this east side is not going to accommodate a play, an added pavilion, along with the current existing pickleball and tennis used a lot right now. And we've had several site visits where we've seen, the parking halfway full at times already in that area for the tennis and pickleball courts. So we shifted the 5 to 12-year-old playground to the west side to, help kind of work together with the 2 to 5-year-old playground and complement it itself, so a family can be in that area as well. Having visual sight of your full family, if you're not just 2 to 5, is a benefit.
Can I pause you right there? So what the board has in front, I just want people to understand what we have in front of us since they can't see it. Has 3 options that you've come up with.
Correct.
Based on all these different activities and features. I think there was the original option. Option 1, I think, looks more similar to the original layout. Is that fair?
Correct, yep.
As you just described it, with things on the east, leaning more towards the east side pickleball courts. And then since that time, you've come up with options 2 and 3, which
We had
move things around?
originally options 1 and 2.
Okay,
And
1 and
then
2.
we've had discussions with the staff, David, Parks and Rec as well, Monica. And that's when we shifted to the playground area being moved as well. And then along with an option 3 that came back with some feedback from the Board of Supervisors as well, from an initial concept sent out, to where we moved the pavilion along with keeping the playground on the west side to basically be fully, the full development would be on the west side now, and be reduced as well, just for a purpose of budget and future maintenance, and potentially what is desired, from the board itself and the park itself. We would be keeping, the third option would keep, or would add a bathroom pad that would be ADA accessible and fit an ADA bathroom, and then a regular stall, a portable bathroom that would need to be maintained in the future, and it would be screened, and there's a good depiction on the plans as well for each option, showing how it would be buffered and would be more pleasurable to viewing than just having a portable bathroom out there. The west side will also include a portable bathroom pad with an ADA access and a regular portable bathroom as well. Yeah, and then, so with the option 2, the difference is we'd be including a bocce pavilion. It would be covered, so the bocce court itself would be a lot less, maintenance in the future. And then there is one, I have an example on the plans, that is from Lower Skipback and Palmer Park.
So you just pull up your document.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, great. So, as I said, we broke it out into 3 different plan sets, just to make it less confusing when they're all in one plan set. But plan option 1, you see your existing park. Option 1 is going to have the full playground area. It's about roughly 10,500 square feet footprint, and it's going to have 5 features on it, including swing sets, a large fitness challenge. It's from Miracle. It was recommended from the Parks and Rec Department. It's going to have a freestanding structure, which we have several options on there, and a zip line, and then a shaded benched area as well for mothers and other family members to kind of relax in that area. And then that would be on the west side, and on the east side we would have the horseshoe pit, the 2 bocce courts themselves. They're 12 by 60. Basically a curb turf bocce court, and that would be open to the elements, so it would need maintenance in the future. There would be in option 1, there would be a grouped exercise station area that would have similar surfacing to the playground, and it would include 5 exercise stations, and then there would be a pavilion as well. This is just one of the options that's 30 by 40, but I have several options that we've priced out that can fit within the budget, and they would fit 8 to 10 picnic tables. Currently, on the west side, you guys do rent out the pavilion areas, and the capacity exceeds the current size, is what the Parks and Rec Department has specified. So that's where we got the size of the proposed pavilion. As you can see, too, there's bathrooms that will be ADA accessible, one located near the northwest corner of the pickleball area, and then the other one would be located on the entrance to the existing Secret Gardens playground. Options 2 and 3 for the west side are going to be similar. I'll just jump to those real quick. Option 2, since there is going to be more cost on the east side, option 2 would just be a reduced west side area and include the main features. A swing set was one of the main that was specified by Parks and Rec as the current swing set within the Secret Garden. Basically accommodates both 5 and 12 and the 2 to 5, so it doesn't have enough real seats for the 2 to 5. So the option was, hey, we want a swing set, then we would remove the existing 5 to 12 swings in the Secret Garden, and then they would have enough swings for the younger children. Another a reason for some of these features we have chosen is we're looking for more active and more group-oriented areas versus the existing Secret Gardens right now. Is kind of is more sensory related and is more freestanding features versus group features that larger children can run and jump around. Like you can see on these are kind of popping up all over parks. I don't know if you guys have run into any lately. They're pretty big hit right now with the kids. They can swing around. There's shows about them on TV and sort of deal. They kind of all blend together, and it's it's fitness as well at the same time as it is a playground feature. So here's that bathroom detail I was discussing. So it'd be a surrounded bathroom with some landscaping, ornamental grasses, arborvitae in that sense.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yep, of course.
Did we get any feedback, and maybe, John, you have insight into this? When we opened that playground, it was very specifically for children, I'm just going to use the term, with special needs. And so when you talk about taking the swing sets from there and bringing in more activity, how would that, has our advisory committee been able to weigh in on, would that impact the children who, we built this for, and their needs? Because now suddenly, there's a giant swing-around thing and different type of activities that might set off people with sensory issues or be a challenge.
Yeah, there hasn't been a discussion about noise from the Disability Advisory Board, but there is been a large request for accessible changing tables, which is what we'd like in the temporary or the sort of the concrete pad that we were talking about to make it accessible for people to be able to change diapers for all larger children, what have you, to fit with what's currently there. I don't, my experience again, and I do walk and visit this area frequently, there's kids talk, it's loud as it is. I don't know, adding the swings, would that increase the noise? I'm not sure. I mean, we'd have to certainly think about it, but I'm not, it's a distance, and it's also outside a fenced area, so it's,
That's what I had thought, but then I thought you just said that we were going to remove some of the swings from within the area.
I think he's speaking of the actual swings on the swing, so this, and swap them for the ones that are for smaller kids. So
Okay.
that the bigger kids would be out of the secret garden area.
Okay,
Which
thank
could be a benefit for the mix of folks that are in the secret garden, but it does attract a wide variety of folks because people do like, they like the squishy nature of the padding. They like all of the amenities around it. So you'd be surprised at the different kinds of folks that use it.
No, I think that's great, and I'm going to interpret, even though I know I'm wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway, that you're talking about putting shade over portions of the secret garden, which I fully support. That's something we've been asked for a long time. I'm challenged by, I think you said 12 picnic tables? Like, do we have a desire for big picnic table parties?
Yeah, so I had the same thought in that we have the existing pavilion nearby, which is 4 picnic tables, relatively small. But when you, I think one of the, maybe option one, correct, had a large picnic table pavilion. When I first saw any of them, I said, well, that's the same thing you said, that's a lot of picnic tables, which makes for a large pad, which makes for a large covering, right? So all that adds cost. Do we need, I think we probably do need some more space, but I don't know that we need that much more space. You know what I mean? Maybe half that or something similar to that would probably do the trick. Especially, one, because now we go from 1 playground to 2, so we get more people probably letting kids go do their thing. If they have an old, for example, my kids, one would be at one, well, probably both of them would be at the one now, but before, one would be at one would be at the other. And then I might be on that with them, but maybe I want to go sit like other parents. And then at the same time, I think we have a lot of flag football teams playing now on the fields nearby, some other activities going on. So it allows for them to go rest between games, you know, not always just sit on the ground, maybe go sit there, get some shade, drink some water, whatever. And then it opens us up to having some more picnic tables, again, not as many, you know, more birthday parties, stuff like that, more options for that.
Is there shade contemplated over the secret garden? Shade sails or
Over
whatever?
the secret garden?
Yeah.
No, there is not.
So that's still going to be a easy bake oven?
Currently, it's what's there. Yes.
Essentially, if you wanted shade over that playground, you'd be cantilevering stuff or putting stuff right in the middle of it, because it's just big open space. You gotta.
Yeah, you don't have to shade all of it, but you could have some shade.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, part of the reasons I think we get some of the trees being contemplated in that area, not necessarily to have direct overcover, but to have some, you know, creating shaded angles and stuff like that to get what we can out of with the options that we have. But yeah, we need to your point though, we need as much cooling off factors we can at those.
Yeah, the other thing that we need to be somewhat cognizant of is the scope of the improvements that were contemplated in the initial grant application and the ability to modify that. So that part of the delay with this project was the attempt to try to modify the scope to accommodate elements that were outside of the original application. And so we're trying to inject shade in a way that it's not, you know, sort of the primary feature from a cost perspective, because shade was not identified in the application that was submitted, however, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. the application that was submitted was consistent with the master plan that was adopted 20 years prior, or whatever it was. So,
Also get the trees.
I'm just going to say I'm frustrated generally. I won't go on too long, but, we are sandwiched in by a plan by an engineering firm that we sued. I don't know how much we should bend to build something that doesn't fit the needs as we understand them.
I actually agree with you, and I think. Yes, no, we've been saying that a lot lately. I think option 3 is sort of that, I think option 1 is kind of that old approach, right? That we don't love. Option 2 is probably some of that, but not all of it. And option 3 is still in line, Dave, correct me if I misspeak here, still in line with the goals of the grant, but has given us some, allowed us to change it enough that we can be, it meets our actual goals that we have for the area, and not just something that an engineering firm gave us that we.
I think the other thing in terms of shifting the improvements to the west side, beyond sort of the functional components and just the practical components of the ability to have children in those age groups, being observed by a single parent in the event that they're there, it also creates, again, given the limited budget that we have for this project and the time frame, it also creates future flexibility for a potential a newly envisioned project for the east side if the board is so inclined in the future. So,
My general perspective is I strongly favor option 3 in terms of reassessing how the design works to provide additional amenities there. I'd also say on the shading, the proposed trees will eventually provide some additional shade in that area, and the fact that we're delineating some of the stuff now will help us with the shade. The only thing I would, the playground, the picnic tables open, I think there could be demand for that. The existing bathroom is in not ideal shape, so eventually we're going to have to take a look at that. Also, there were a lot of trees that were planted around there. That's heavily shaded that area, which is probably not an area you want as heavily shaded for safety reasons. So we probably need to look at that in the future as well. But in general, my preference is to tweak option 3. And of the stuff that I've gotten feedback on, accessible changing table. So if there's a portable, accessible, if we can look for that, that's ADA compliant, that would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Or something semi-permanent, that we could use there to help address that concern. Because that fits into the folks that do use the secret garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's an option that could be either looked at here, or we could put a pad in, for something that, that could be similar to a portable, restroom or something like that. It would just be a changing area solely for that.
Yep.
That's totally fine, and could fit within the budget.
Yeah. I think we're thinking similarly on this. I might reduce the size of the 30 by 40 or the 8 to 10 picnic tables pavilion. It's probably excessive for what we need by a couple. But then we could potentially use that type of space or that size of pad for those, what Supervisor Lewis was just talking about in terms of a pad for an area for changing tables and additional bathrooms. Because we already have 4 picnic tables right there that get used somewhat, a little bit sparingly. I've used them for birthday parties. But I don't know that we'd ever fill 10 picnic tables up at one time. We might be able to shrink that down to 6 and do something else there, because then we'd have 10 in total right next to each other.
And my observations, again, are not scientific, but they are during different times of the day, across the week. There are a number of people using, like, the picnic tables right next to the existing bathrooms, which seems, and I don't know, I'd prefer to have more light if it were me, but.
It's just closer to it's easier to, It's
see
easier
the
to see
kids.
the kids at the playground.
Yep.
That pavilion that's behind the playground, the existing one that's behind the playground, it's actually really hard to see anything
Yeah.
from there. So I think that's
That's why, yeah,
been that guy.
Yeah.
That's why we would use that.
Do we have to put a concrete slab under the pavilion?
I think so.
Well, I mean, you know, poor Lori, she's going to have to pay more taxes because there's more slabs on the, you know, but honestly, like, you know, isn't fun, part of the fun of having a picnic that you're, you know, you're outside? Like, why do we have to pour concrete to put a picnic table on it?
I mean, from a maintenance standpoint, it's just going to get all dug up and messed up and
It's gonna
muddy,
get
and
dirty,
it's
yeah.
going to drag mud onto the playground, and it's just going to be not fun.
Yeah. Well, it's grass under shade, right? It's not going to get as much TLC, and it'll get walked on and torn up.
This is option 3 that you have up?
So yes, this is option 3 I have up right now. The only, on the east side, the only improvement would be that, like we talked about, that bathroom pad for future use. And the east side would include the pavilion up here. We can reduce the size. I've gotten prices for smaller ones. The difference is not as substantial as you think. Once you start installing piers, and you know, 2 more doesn't add a ton of cost. So it's really, how much money do you want to use, sort of deal. We have the grant, but we want to use it. Is what it comes down to. With these 3 options, there is a schedule though, like we were talking about, and David brought up, that we're basically on the brink of potentially not being able to use this money if we don't start moving forward with the project and decisions. So here is you guys should have each received this as well. It's a schedule. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the major items are tonight's meeting, which we were looking for at least a decision or hopeful decision on at least one of the options, you know, the concept idea, so we can start pushing forward with design and, you know, evaluating other potential issues, which I don't believe there's any. We've gone through pretty much a lot of it, but just to start working forward on design plans. You know, it's more footprint ideas we're looking at. We can change individual items if we really wanted to. It's the footprints we're looking for. So equipment itself. And then option 3, another benefit to option 3, it does give us the most buffer and adjustment area. These costs aren't, you know, they're just estimates right now. Until we get bids and until we, you know, order the actual products, we're not going to know hard costs. That has the biggest safety factor as part of it, is option 3. And allows us to, hey, if we want better equipment or larger equipment or more inclusive equipment, we can, because the cost does come associated with that. You know, inclusive swing seats are more expensive than a regular swing seat, such as that.
I would say option 3 probably gives us more flexibility, future flexibility when it comes to the east side of the park.
Correct.
For
Correct.
potential future needs to improve existing features and contemplate other new features that's on.
Yep. So then tonight's meeting would be great to get a decision on an option. And your input so far has been good on some of the feedback for the features. And then the next big decision would be, we're looking at a 90% plan. So those footprints would be set in stone at that point. And at that point, we're just looking for options chosen for these specific features, locking in those features, the sizes of pavilions. If we want to reduce, that would be okay, but, you know, we wouldn't be enlarging anything at that point. And then that would be on the November 19th meeting. We would need that, and so either be at the meeting or the Friday following that meeting. And then the last decision for the board at that point, regards to the plans themselves, would be that final approval for bid. That way that gives us a large enough bid window to get this out the door and to get contractors looking at it. We got holidays coming up. It gets to be a busy season. I'm not sure if there's a reduced board schedule.
We don't do that.
Cool, great.
We probably have more meetings. So why don't I do this for you? Speed it up. I'll just pull the board.
Well, can we just make a motion that we give
Well,
direction to the engineer to consider option 3 as our preferred?
I guess we could do that.
Yeah, I think option 3 is the best, but maybe if we can try to make the picnic table smaller and maybe add some shading into
Wherever feasible.
yeah,
I think that's.
yeah, like that secret garden playground is literally a
Okay, so
stone
look into shading in
for
the secret garden
toddlers.
playground.
Yeah, shading is key in that area.
All right, reduce
Reduce the picnic tables, more well, how about somebody make a motion and say just that?
I was doing
I know you're
that.
going to do it. I'm letting you.
And additional recommendations as you refine design would be to consider reducing picnic tables, increasing shade around there, and then obviously accessible changing table or ADA accessible changing table for that pad area. Those are the three. Were there any others? James, did you have anything?
No, I mean, the only thing that I saw out of the option 3 that didn't really sit well was that I guess we're going to be putting a pad in some kind of area around a couple of porta pots. Is that what that is?
That's for the folks at the pickleball area. Yeah, are you looking for something more defined?
No, I mean, it's on both sides, so.
Yeah,
yes,
both sides.
There is a sort of a screened area with portable toilets on the east side as well, or on the west side as well.
So for both areas, we're doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it would accommodate, because right now the bathrooms are overused, is what we got back from Park, not overused, but just, overburdened, as in during especially sporting events you guys have over there. 2 bathrooms doesn't quite suffice, so, hey, here's what we can do within our budget. Anything permanent that, like another bathroom building is just undoable with our time frame and budget as along with that for this project. It's because it turns into multi-prime and gets a lot more complex. So we're kind of stuck with this as a potential.
But I would say, Supervisor McCartney, both east and west side get access to additional toilets. The folks on the east side didn't have them before, and so this will save tennis players, pickleball players from that long walk. They can go to the bathroom, get back to whatever activity they're doing, and save time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it on the east side only because, like, to the point of we're looking at futures of maybe having a bigger picture, a bigger redesign. I don't know how okay I'm with it on the west side. I think that I think a porta potty gives you it's something temporary, right? It gives you the illusion of something temporary, and I don't know if we're trying to finish that west side area, that putting 2 porta pots on a pad is something of permanency,
But we
right?
do have additional porta potties there right now that are on mud or on the parking lot. This pad would give them a better place to be and give us something that's it's somewhat more semi-permanent.
Yeah.
Again, it's not ideal to your point, but it would be, I think, potentially.
It would be ADA accessible as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously it is temporary, like you're saying, it feels temporary and it can be temporary in a cost sense.
Are these classic porta-johns, or could you consider like composting toilets or something like that?
So composting toilets we're not considering, I mean, it just feasibility-wise, it doesn't make sense. Maintenance-wise, they're very expensive, that kind of sense. Not easy to clean, that's for sure.
I know a lot of people that have them as camp toilets, that's all.
Yeah.
And they work great, so I'm wondering.
Yeah, we went with the portable, the standard
Classic.
portable classic toilet.
Double wide porta-john, I guess?
Yep, easy maintenance system, does the job sort of deal.
Yeah.
So that's what we, are proposing.
Could you throw us an estimate on the composting toilets or something similar that's something that's a little more permanent, just so we know what the cost difference is?
For a permanent structure, you mean?
No. So like I've seen composting toilets that are almost housed in something that, plastic housing like a porta-john, but they're actually composting toilets, not just a hole in the ground. And I've seen them all over the place up north. So if there's access to something like that, they're a little bit nicer than porta-johns, and they have an environmental benefit. So.
Okay. Something we can consider.
I was just discussing porta pots.
Yeah, Derek, I don't mean to call you up into this, but you did get some information on some restroom-related facilities. I didn't get a chance to look at that, so I don't know if you could share.
Oh, so maybe he'll
he may be able to. I don't. Again, I didn't. There may be some context that could be helpful.
To
Riveting conversation.
reassure that, if you wanted even, again, they do have prefabricated structures that are turnkey. You're looking at a single stall prefab that really, we would be responsible to just get plumbing and electrical to it, $180,000. Lead time is 12 to 18 months from today if we approve shop drawings. So if you went to the prefab structure for like an actual building, you're $180,000 for a single toilet. Double toilet, $250,000.
There are some porta pots out there that do have plumbing into them. and sewer out of them that they set up at festivals and that
Yeah,
sort of thing that are
we
temporary?
could do like a trailer option, you know.
Not that sort. It still looks like a regular porta pot. It's connected, like there's might be 2 or 3 of them, and there's plumbing that runs behind it that supplies water, and then there's a sewer that runs out of the back of just like maybe like a 3-pack.
Yeah, there's a couple ways you could do that. Is some of them for the festivals they have holding tanks behind them, you know, so but there's maintenance with that and smell, you know, because the festivals they're pumping them out daily, if not twice a day, due to demand. Our porta potties that are up there over pickleball, we have weekly service, you know, and that costs about $78 a month, $80 a month to have one porta potty. Those ones, when I've rented them for construction, you're talking $300, $400, $500 a month just for the service needs of that.
Got ya.
Or you're digging up and putting in sewer and water directly to them. Then you have the problem with winter maintenance of them. You can't use them in the winter. We shut down that restroom in the winter now, and we drop an extra porta potty there just for winter use, which would be coming up in the next month or two to shut down for frost. So I'm sure we'll look at that option for fancier porta potties. On the east side, it would be a no. There's no water, there's no sewer.
Yeah, no, that I get. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking long-term, if we're looking to develop the east side with some long-term plan, porta pots are okay. I'm just thinking on the west side, aesthetically, now if they're there already.
Yeah, I would love to do a prefab building, but $250,000 and a 12 to 18-month lead time is not, I mean, we need to be done by.
Yeah, we actually did pull numbers as well for prefabs, and he's right on the money with
Yeah,
the numbers.
that's
It's around
what they are.
$200,000 just for a single stall.
Single. One.
Wow.
One.
Why is the lead time so?
Because so there's structural drawings. Again, it kind of gets us away from the multi-prime because they're all prefabbed out, and this one is Minnesota. Come out in a truck, the company digs them, sets them with a crane, and they're done within 5 days. You have a
I'm
bathroom.
just thinking the Amish can get a shed in my backyard in like 5 days.
The pavilion could probably be done in a week, you know,
Yeah.
because it's the Amish guys. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's the prefab world of it. So
And Derek, when you've looked at the porta potties, we're going to be able to get one that can address the needs that Supervisor Lewis talked about.
So it's funny. I was actually looking back there. I don't know directly of a vendor that does it, but it's funny that there is, if we make that pad large enough, there is, again, I have a newborn. I wouldn't change a baby in a porta potty, I'll be honest with you. I mean, they get rank on the 7th day of the week before they come. There is a company out there that has
Porta
just...
potty or the baby?
Well, both, yeah. On the 7th day, it is rank. But there are ADA porta potties that literally are just a stall with a changing table. So there is no toilet facility in it, so maybe that's an option if we build that pad just large enough. We would have to, I don't think anyone rents that, we would purchase it. And it's not a toilet, it's literally just a stall with a changing table for the ADA needs. I don't know if that would
And as
suffice or what.
As it's been explained to us, right, you stop thinking of the newborn baby, right? These are older children, 50, 70 pounds.
And that's what's
need some
funny
kind
with the prefab, they have they call it the adult changing tables.
Perfect.
Unfortunately, I wish we could do just that in the playground, and that's your $900,000, that's where it would be at if you want that avenue.
But the lead time is still an issue.
Again, I'm sure I could push hard, but the lead time would be a significant factor.
I'm just Googling.
Go ahead.
I got
Yeah,
all
so,
kinds of-
I got lost in Google too back there, so.
Getting back on track a little bit.
Motion,
Yeah.
3 recommendations from the
Yep.
board. It wasn't seconded.
Second.
Okay.
There we go.
With that,
Any board comment?
Oh, somebody doesn't have their mic.
that would be me. So I made a motion with 3 recommendations that was seconded by Supervisor Ross. The chair asked if anybody else had any comments.
Yep. Any board comment?
I don't have a personal comment, but I know that Mr. Labar's here from the Park and Rec Committee, and they did want to give some feedback on some of the stuff that they looked at. So I don't know if you want to come up and say anything, Rob?
Sure.
While he's coming, just a question, just to help Will. The shade structures, if we decrease pavilion, increase shade, it's a LSA grant. I did read the grant. We can't add shade to Secret Garden. We'd be in violation of the grant. I'm sure we could put shade over the new playground if that would be acceptable to see how much we can shrink and do. I don't, if that helps with the emotion. I just want to.
So wait, we can't put any shade over that existing?
You gotta be, I'm going through LSA with the tub grinder. They will read it to a T, and they will deny the payment if it's not. If we build a playground that has shade, that's what the grant says, a 5 to 12 playground.
So any existing structures you can't make improvements on?
Grants never let you fix stuff you have already.
Got
They
it.
only want you to buy new stuff.
Can I have a question? When you design this, can you, since most of those are like cantilever structures that go over,
I'm sure we could
can you pick
purposely place it that when the
Yeah.
sun's in the 5 o'clock position, it may cast
Well, no, I'm
shadows
just
there.
saying, like, if you get a cantilever structure that hangs over the one playground.
Correct.
And you get it, so you could add a piece that hangs over the other playground, and we can do that as a separate item?
We could look at that. I just want to be careful with adding shade over a secret garden, that's all.
So you can add them all along the way, and then.
And again, that could be our cost down the
Yeah,
future,
and
yeah,
then
and build
in the
something in the
summer
future.
after
But I
the
just want to be
project's done,
very
we can just
careful
add
of
those
how we
on.
add shade, that's all.
Make sure it's designed to hold it. Okay. And I did find a family porta potty with changing station inside by Wilkinson Portables, if you want to. Probably saw that one. Mr. LeBar.
Hi there, Rob LeBar, 519 Heritage Oak Drive, member of the Parks and Rec Board. We had our meeting last night, and this was raised at our meeting. We weren't privy to the amounts that bathrooms would cost or what the grant restrictions were, but we wanted to raise our concerns to the board that we think the focus should be. I think it's been issued here and discussed. Certainly shade and bathrooms are our main, should be a main focus if possible or whatever. One of the concerns we had from the Park and Recs board was whatever the Board of Supervisors agree to and move forward with the deadlines, we weren't given any idea of what the penalties were if structures weren't done by that deadline. And our concern is that if something is started and not completed by the deadline, then the taxpayers are going to be stuck funding the project or whatever. So we just wanted to express our concerns, our views, and that's it.
Thanks. Yeah, do you know about specifically? Because I think that, you
Yeah,
know,
again,
have
we have an email out, we're inquiring. I mean, you feel, again, barring timely decision-making, you think that this is accomplishable within this period of time?
Yes.
I mean, from a risk standpoint?
With the west side, especially the option 3, as long as we can, you know, like we're saying, footprint decisions, I mean, we're getting into the weeds a bit with shade and bathroom, but with this option, you know, as is today, we can get this done.
As you said, I think that the board is focused on the exact same things that Park and Rec is, because we've been focused on this for 4 or 5 years, and the same items have come up over and over again that we're trying to push. This grant, obviously, the reason we're have it on the agenda tonight to get some direction is because we are so concerned about the deadline, so we don't lose it, you know, it's use it or lose it kind of thing, and we don't want to lose it. So we need to come up with some decisions or guidance tonight for you to move forward, for them to move forward with some stuff, and then decisions as part of this budget so we can get the bid documents out by January. Is that correct?
Correct. We need to have so that's why I was getting at the next, we talked about the November tonight's meeting, then the November 19th meeting would be that 90% set. Approval where we would just be choosing individual items, not enlarging anything, not changing any, you know, chosen items. And then the final approval to bid would be the December 17th meeting, and then we would, our first advertisement would be the 22nd, and basically that gives us 30 days to January 21st, and that's the required window to have the bid open at minimum. So we have to have that 30 days. Then we come with the letter of recommendation, and then you guys would authorize the letter of recommendation. And basically, we have a 75-day window, which is tight already right now.
A 30-day window for bid opening, is that state requirement or is that our requirement?
That's a state requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
To answer your question, we're looking into whether or not, if it's not completed by the time, if there would be any kind of punishment, and we will have that answer before we move forward.
We understood you don't get it, you lose it or whatever, but on the flip side of that is if we're going to put, let's say, a swing set or whatever apparatus is there, and that is going to take longer than what the deadline is, then our suggestion is peel back from that and focus in on what can get done so that we're not stuck holding the bill.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right?
Thanks, Rob.
Rob, when's your next meeting? Just,
It
Tuesdays?
was raised last night. The question, I didn't get an answer. It was supposed to be Veterans Day, but we didn't know if the building was closed or it should be around Veterans Day if it's not on that Tuesday.
okay.
So that's what, November?
November 11th.
You have to get closer to the mic.
I think that Veterans Day is November 12th, so the question was if the township building was open for our Park and Rec, so we had to move that a day before or day after.
So
Has Katie
Veterans Day
scheduled
is the
the November
11th,
meetings
which
yet?
is a Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, the township office is closed on Veterans Day, but we'll work with, we'll get with Monica, and obviously she'll have to reach out to you guys. I just was, for Will's purposes, just to, again, when we're getting into potential options related to apparatus, just so that you guys had the information so that you could weigh in.
Yeah,
and
we
provide
were aware of
recommendations.
the time deadlines, and we were going to schedule our meeting, whatever would work, so.
Per the calendar right now? Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at October, my bad. I'm looking to see if Katie put anything on the calendar yet for you guys. And I don't. We do not currently have a meeting on the calendar, so she's going to reschedule those shortly, I assume.
Yeah, she said she sent an email out to, I don't know if it was to Doug as the chair, asking about the 11th. So there is some communication.
Yeah, we
on that.
discussed it at the
Yeah.
end of our meeting. We're all available for a quorum, so I think it was just whether it would be the 11th or the 13th or something like that, so.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I think that's, any other public comment? Anything online? All right. Motion second, we've had our comments. I'll call it to question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right, motion carries 4-1. So you have your direction. See you upcoming meeting?
Yes.
All right, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. All right, moving on to item 11.
We had 6G
What?
on the Patterson
Oh, I'm
Farm
sorry, that's right, we
asbestos
moved
abatement
it.
project.
That's, yes, please. So item 6G was moved from the consent agenda to the manager's report. It's consider acceptance of the bid from Sargent Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $21,535. That should be a period, not a comma. $21,535 for the Patterson Farm asbestos abatement project. Mr. Manager, if you could
Yeah, I
show this.
can provide, again, as outlined in the memo that's in your packet, the township was soliciting bids for this project. Again, it is to remove asbestos or abate asbestos within the buildings at Patterson Farm. As the memo notes, the township received 7 responses to the bid on October the 8th. As the chair noted on the agenda, the bid that's being recommended is to Sargent Enterprises in the amount of $21,535. Township staff has reviewed the submitted documentation, also reviewed references for the contractor, and has deemed the contractor to be responsible in accordance with all respective requirements. So again, as the agenda notes, we are recommending award of the bid to Sargent in the amount of $21,535. Derek, just in terms of the scope of this work, I know Jim was
running point. From what I understand, it was all the asbestos has been identified in the previous reports of the property. It's the complete removal and abatement of that asbestos.
And this is part of the larger plan relative to remediating various environmental concerns at the farm, including
Correct.
lead abatement that's been ongoing for the last couple of years,
Yes.
whether it's lead paint on the buildings, lead in the houses, lead in the soil. We've been instituting a plan to take care of that. This is the asbestos side of that.
Yep.
The painting that's been done to seal some of it in, all that's in an effort to clean things up so that it's safe for worker safety moving forward.
Correct.
As we seek to implement further fixes to the farm and to the various buildings out there relative to structural items and other things. This is the next cog in the wheel, so to speak, relative to getting to that point where we can start doing that type of work as well.
That is correct. As the chair notes, again, the township adopted a master plan for Patterson Farm in November of 2023. Many of the activities that have been undertaken in 2025 are in the interest of establishing a framework to be able to advance the project. As was noted, there was painting done, there was light carpentry work that was done on the farm. There is this environmental cleanup with the asbestos. We've gone through in working in cooperation with the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority to identify funding sources and additional study on some of the environmental remediation, all of which are consistent with the initial 7 steps that were outlined in the master plan. So we've, while the project continues to move forward, and some of that may not be as visible to the general public, as the chair notes, all of these are about all of these projects and all of the work that's been accomplished and all of the work in trying to establish partnerships and leverage resource, all of that is ultimately in the interest of advancing the project and our sort of foundational steps that have been taken in 2025. So again, we're continuing to work on, sort of the operationalize, the master plan, and we continue to look for partners in that, and we'll be meeting with Bucks County Redevelopment Authority tomorrow to talk about how to, again, try to translate this into this vision into incremental and implementable steps. So yeah, just wanted to, again, provide some context on the work that's been done in 2025. While it may not be as visible, they are all foundational steps that need to be taken. So,
with that, entertain
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the bid from Sargent Enterprises in the amount of $21,535,000 for the Patterson Farm asbestos abatement project.
Second.
All right, any board comment or questions?
To the extent that there's a typo on the agenda where it should be a decimal point 00 instead of a comma, that's not a problem, right? Just,
yeah, it's it. So the amount is $21,535. Yes.
okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No other board comments? Any public comment? No one online or on the phone? All right, call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
All right. Public Works update, well, I know how it's going because I see it, but Highland Drive.
Be glad. I know HRG's here, the representative too, if there's any questions. The projects are obviously moving along well. One of the good steps is, it's not a good step, but the culvert's been demoed, which is good, and the utility providers, which are actually critical to our project schedule, have mobilized. American Water is on site this week, doing their water line work over the stream, under the stream, and Pico Gas has confirmed that they'll be on site Monday, starting all their gas line relocation work. So there are 2 integral steps for us, our contractor, to keep working after those 2 contractors are done, the 2 utility providers. Culvert has been removed.
Derek, can I ask you a quick
go ahead,
question?
absolutely.
On the utilities themselves, because neighbors did get door knockers from Pico, nothing from American Water, though. Will they have interrupted service at all?
No. From what the conversations with American Water, all their previous work that was done that would have been interruptive, that's all been completed prior. All their work that they're doing in the stream will not disrupt any customer service in terms of water. That's probably why they didn't notify anyone, because there is no disruption and they're within the construction limits. Pico Gas, I know, probably sent out a boilerplate flyer that makes no sense to people, but from what I was told, there's no interruption for gas service. Everything's being hot tapped. They're not doing anything in terms of the few homes that are within the work area There's no service line work from what I understand. It's all the gas main within the right-of-way of the roadway that is being done.
So ignore the bottom two-thirds of the letter that said all that was happening. Okay,
Correct, yeah.
excellent. Keep going, sorry.
Yeah, so the culvert's been demoed, the utility providers are doing their work, which is very critical for the schedule, and the contractor did do a lot of the invasive vegetation removal downstream of the culvert, which was all that Japanese knotweed. So that's been removed, stabilized, and again, just waiting for the contractor and the procurement of the new culvert, so. I don't know if there's any questions for
Yeah,
HRP.
Corey, I don't
Yeah,
know if you have anything.
But
Derek, do you know when they'll be doing the work at Upton and Highland? That's where the bus stops are, so that's where a lot of people have the most concern.
yeah, I can definitely find out from what I remember, and Corey, maybe you know a little bit more. Kyle has the intricate details, but I believe they're working in the stream first from the gas aspect, I believe, but I can confirm that and send you a detail of where they're working when. I can find that out for you.
Appreciate that. Anything else we need to address?
No, any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay.
Do you have anything, or you're good? Okay.
All right, I think we're good. Any board members?
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Madam Solicitor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minutes should reflect that the Board of Supervisors did meet in executive session on Monday, October 13th, this past Monday, to discuss a real estate matter. And in addition, they met this evening in executive session immediately prior to this meeting to discuss real estate matters, a litigation matter, and employment matters. Having said that, there are 4 ordinances for your consideration this evening. Globally, all have been properly advertised, noticed, presented to Bucks County Planning Commission, if appropriate, and are ripe for your consideration. So I would suggest I take one at a time and vote on each one, if that's acceptable to you.
Sure.
I'll do the Evelyn Wood speed reading.
for it.
Mr. Chair, I move that we enact an ordinance amending the Lower Makefield Township and subdivision land development ordinance relating to the tree bank.
Second.
Any board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move that we consider enacting an ordinance amending the subdivision and land development ordinance relating to street trees and buffer yards.
Second?
Any board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next.
Mr. Chair, I move that we consider enacting an ordinance amending the subdivision and land development ordinance, eliminating inconsistent provisions with the recently adopted stormwater management ordinance.
Second?
A motion is second. Any board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Mr.
opposed?
Chair.
Opposed?
Oh.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we consider enacting an ordinance amending the Lower Makefield Township zoning ordinance to eliminate floodplain management requirements, which were recently incorporated into the standalone floodplain management ordinance.
Second?
Any board comment or question?
To this one, I will make one quick comment. We received the Bucks County Planning Commission review letter between the time this was before you and tonight. There were 2 minor changes. They were non-material. They were really stylistic and materialistic. One was a repeat of a word. One was using the word floodplain management, where they preferred just floodplain. So those revised ordinances are what are in your packet and what you're voting on.
Appreciate the clarification. Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? And that is everything on those. I know you got some more, though.
Just one more thing, based on the zoning hearing board applications that are before your zoning hearing board, on October 21st, you have authorized us to attend and oppose 2 of the applicants, or 2 of the applications, and we will be doing so.
All righty.
And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you much. Supervisor reports. I will say the Planning Commission met and had a presentation from Pannoni on the Act 537 plan, and it was informational purposes. Supervisor Lewis?
No report this evening?
All right. Supervisor Ross?
No report?
Supervisor McCartney?
Nothing to report.
And Supervisor Blundy?
No report.
All right. Discussion items, number 14 on the agenda is discuss reorganization or restructuring of advisory boards and commissions. Now, over the years, I think everyone who follows township goings-on, there have been several township boards and commissions established, volunteer-led, huge benefit to the township across the board. Some of these advisory boards and commissions that were set up several years ago may be not as necessary these days because they were formed for a very specific item that no longer exists. Others maybe have evolved into something else or could evolve into something else where we have a greater need right now. So there's been, I know this board's had discussion on and off now. I can remember since my first year on the board, I know we had some discussions about it, but we've never really moved forward with making those changes to make things run a little more efficiently and get more constructive input across the board from our advisory boards and commissions. So what I've asked, what the board has asked staff to do is to provide some recommendations for how we may be able to reform some committees, reorganize some committees, possibly combine some committees that have like responsibilities, one or two new ones based on how the township itself has evolved relative to public versus private utilities is one. And as such, our township manager has come up with some preliminary recommendations, I'll say that, to get the discussion going. And that's in our packet tonight. I'd ask if there are any, generally in my mind, when I look at this, I think I agree with the vast majority of the recommendations. I think any changes we do make, we'd have to look at any resolutions or, establishing charters, et cetera, that how we form these committees, number of members of the committees, their all the stuff that we look at, and what their charter is for moving forward. So it's getting a little bit late, so I don't want to spend hours on this discussion, but have this in front of you and would ask for any initial inputs that you may have based on the memo generated by the manager. And of course, if there's anything else you'd like to add as the drafter and author of this memo, I would certainly appreciate it.
No, Mr. Chair. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions in terms of trying to provide, the general rationale and thought behind any of the changes. Again, the memo contemplates the potential for 9 changes in total, one of which has already been completed. So when I initially drafted the memo, there was some question as to the status of the Lower Makefield Township Sewer Authority, given the decision that was made to sell the asset. So I initially had something here about abolishing the sewer authority and the need to review articles of incorporation. However, since initially drafting the memo, have determined and have confirmed that the termination of the authority was filed with the Commonwealth appropriately, and that entity was terminated. The other items, the other 8 items that remain, again, as the chair noted, largely were motivated by a desire to streamline township governance, increase the efficiency, reduce any potential duplication, again, make sure that the advisory bodies align more with strategic priorities of the township, current strategic priorities of the township, and then also making sure that we have the capacity from a staff perspective to adequately support the work of these citizen committees that do, just as you said, great work on behalf of the township. So I can quickly just go down these if you'd like, or not, whatever your preference is or whatever the board's preference is at this point. But happy to not do that and just answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Yeah. I think just quickly, in terms of the ones where you have no changes to, those, I'll just say those, the auditors, the supervisors, citizen traffic, disability advisory board, emergency management, the EAC, Farmland Preservation Corporation, Human Relations Commission, Parks and Rec, Planning Commission, Zoning Hearing Board, and several of those are established by statute. You have to have those.
Correct.
And then we also have the Patterson Farm Master Plan Implementation Committee was one, and the Trenton Mercer Airport Review Panel as the last couple that no changes were recommended. And then very quickly, proposed changes, I'll go bottom to top, I think. Consider expanding the role of the EAC to serve as a shade tree commission, consistent with Article 29 of the Second Class Township Code. I can read my Roman numerals. Sunset the current ad hoc property committee and consider reestablishment as needed moving forward. Explore transit, and I think this is feedback from the Veterans Committee themselves.
That is correct, yeah.
Explore transition of the Veterans Committee to serve as a Friends of Veterans Square advisory group and organize as a subcommittee of potentially Parks and Rec. Eliminate the Electric Reliability Committee and the Electronic Media Advisory Committee, which they both have kind of advised is a good idea, and blend them into a regulated utilities committee, since now all of our utilities are privately owned. We some type of committee to review, like ERC used to just keep an eye on PICO.
Sure.
This would look at PICO, Aqua, PA Water, et cetera. And the EMAC was initially established to deal with cable rights.
Yep.
So that would be another one. That's why we're looking at that. Abolish the sewer authority. I think that's already been explained why.
Yep.
Eliminate the existing special events committee and consider reestablishment as an ad hoc basis as needed. For example, we're accepting, I should put this on the announcements earlier, we're accepting applications and resumes for the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 ceremony. Right now, that would be an example of a special event committee.
From residents.
Yes, thank you. And then reorganize the Golf Committee into a Makefield Highlands Advisory Stakeholders Committee, and that would be, I assume, to reflect the nature of Makefield Highlands as not just being golf.
It's to potentially broaden the audience and
Yes.
the input. Again, obviously, golf operations is important, but there are, for example, adjacent property owners that may have an interest in serving in that because of proximity to the course or whatever it may be.
It's not from the Board of Supervisors.
So.
Understood. And then the last one you have here is consider combining HARB and the Historical Commission into a single Historical and Architectural Review Commission.
And that's just to provide some context on that. That is something that some other municipalities have done. For example, I think Charlestown Township in Chester County did that back in like the late 1990s. Again, recognizing sort of the value that both do and the potential strength in sort of combining those two and leveraging the respective skills of both of those bodies.
Yeah, and I think I skipped over one. Sorry, and then there was another one too, similar to probably Veteran Square. Create a Friends of Slate Hill Cemetery Advisory Group as a subcommittee of this new Historical and Architectural Review Commission.
Again, that's been a focus of the Historical Commission. There's been a lot of stewardship there, so opportunity to maybe have that a little bit more focused and maybe broaden some outreach and provide some additional opportunities for folks to get involved in that.
All right, I appreciate it. I think when I look at this, I'm largely in agreement. I think we talked about Patterson Farm earlier. We may end up, there may be the Patterson Farm Master Plan Implementation Committee. That one could obviously evolve depending on how we progress implementing the overall plan. And then I'm trying to think if there's any others that jump out to me is, if I would say go in a different route than what you've shown here, but generally I think I lean towards this.
Yeah, and just to give you some context on sort of staff support, and I'll sort of point to one that's not proposing any change, but to sort of demonstrate what we're talking about, the police department through and under the leadership of Chief Kelly, he's assigned Lieutenant Hillman to serve as a liaison to them. So again, making sure that we're connecting staff members with maybe technical information that's helpful to their decision-making with these citizen volunteer groups. So that's obviously with 22 distinct bodies currently, that's a challenge. So that's in part motivating, and that's just one example of what I'm talking about in terms of staff support.
Any board feedback? Go for it.
What is a shade tree commission?
So those are actually
No, I know
pretty
that-
common.
Well, no, I know that they exist, but in terms of for Lower Makefield, when we think about it, does that mean that, because right now, the stewardship of the trees is something that falls to Parks and Rec and Public Works. So are we changing that, enhancing that?
So one example of, and again, it's proposed or consider the potential expansion of that. Obviously, street trees in, neighborhoods, for example, add character to the community. And so it's not atypical that a municipality would have a shade tree commission that would regulate sort of street trees. So the trees that are in sort of a tree lawn between, for example, a sidewalk and a public street. So there may be, if you were to go down that path in many communities, if you wanted to remove one of those trees or you wanted to do something with one of those trees, there would be a process involved in which you would submit a permit to have reviewed by a commission, and then they would talk about options relative to that tree. Again, it's not an atypical thing that municipal governments do and have involvement in.
We had it in Queens, but I didn't know we would think about it here, but okay, I'm open to it.
Well, the other thing they often do, and maybe even more important, is when we get and I think our EAC does this, it's probably formalized a little more though, is when there's a land development application and there's a landscape requirement that includes street trees or the like, then the Shade Tree Commission has an official letter that they write.
As opposed to the unofficial letter we get from the EAC.
Well, it would be as...
New letterhead?
Yeah, exactly. It would be as the Shade Tree Commission focused on that specific issue versus one comment. I think some developers are notorious for ignoring EAC comment letters, and they just focus on planning and the engineers. So if they get one, this makes it, if we went with the Shade Tree Commission approach, it would make it is that a word? You can't, unignorable? I don't know if that's a word,
yeah.
but yes, they couldn't ignore it.
Yeah,
I think where I would lean more versus the permits for trees.
I thought we did a pretty good job of incorporating that, but I'm good with whatever everyone's good with. I guess, I'd also like to see as part of this, because I think one of the places, that I've seen struggle over my 8 years up here is what is the role, what are the charters, because even, today I get asked by people, hey, I'm on this board, I'm on this whatever, what can I do, what am I supposed to do? So I would hope that whatever realignment we come up with, we were able to give direct feedback and direction.
Yeah, and that's part of the intent as well, and that's sort of the potential implementation sort of consideration. So I'll just give you an example where the Historical Commission, the scope of the work that they do is well beyond the initial charter that established that group. So that's for you guys to decide sort of role and responsibility, but the alignment of those expectations and those sort of roles would be part of this exercise of restructuring and reorganization, trying to clearly define what the scope of their responsibility is and their role is, yes.
And to your point, Suzanne, I think a lot of the committees that maybe we're sunsetting or combining is just because of that, right? They didn't really have a role anymore. Or they didn't really have a direction anymore because what they used to do maybe isn't needed anymore, and they still want to help, but they just don't know how they can do that within that committee. So I think this is an effort to address that in some way.
Yeah.
Any other board comments or questions?
The only thing I thought about on the Regulated Utilities Commission is maybe to cover other infrastructure as well in that purview. It's something to consider because of the relationship between our infrastructure and the regulated utilities infrastructure. And then, we've created temporary committees that we should probably have a formal sort of sunset setting process on them so that, Committee X has a sunset after 5 years if we don't view it's, there are some, we've been working with, whether it's EAC, zoning hearing board, whether it's mandated by, but there's others that have had a good role, but then, over time things change and a renewal process might be helpful for us to then say, okay, and, some of these might fit into that 5-year area as well, so.
Yeah. It would require reassessment.
Yeah. So just an automatic sunset for 5 years for something like that. And I'll be the first to say that I'm partially guilty of this because when we had significant power outages, pushing PICO was helpful and having the committee was helpful. But over time, PICO did fix a number of circuits, and then the role changed. The same thing with the Electronic Media Advisory Council. When we were regulating local cable operators, there was a need for that, and there was a large compliance burden of things that we had to do. With the changes in the Telecommunications Act, that changed the dynamic, and now with streaming, we're getting screwed. We're not getting our money anymore quite the same way. So those things evolve. So we need to sunset the ones that we think, or have a renewal process.
So I don't know if anyone else has any comments or questions. So in terms of next steps, Dave, you've heard some of the comments here. Some of these, the ones that aren't changing, I don't know that we need to, if folks want to change those, then obviously we can look at that, but that wouldn't require anything, right? Those are status quo for everything?
Correct.
And then the ones that you are recommending changes, I think they would need, one, you have to get direction that, that sounds about right. And two, then you'd have to look at structuring them, how many members, any requirements for membership, their terms, and then developing charters for all of them, right? And then we'd have to probably establish them by resolution.
Yes, that
So,
would be correct.
so this isn't a 5-second deal here, single vote or anything. It's a process. So how do you foresee moving forward with all that?
So, at this point, we're really just looking for any sort of general reaction, general feedback. We've received some of that this evening. If there's more, I'm happy to take it, I guess. Otherwise, we can start trying to put some, meat on the bone, so to speak, in terms of what sort of role and responsibility looks like for sort of the newly aligned committees, just for your review, to make sure that it's, again, consistent with sort of what you're thinking and it's capturing that. So that's probably would be the next step.
Okay. I think you'll get much more detailed comments and responses there. But I think looking at it as a skeleton, let's say, since saying putting meat on the bone, I'll stick with that one.
Okay.
In my mind, the skeleton looks pretty good. Devil's in the details, obviously, but
Sure.
Stick with the Halloween theme. But I'm okay with you moving forward with.
Some of these I think will have outreach. For example, the Veterans Committee that you mentioned, they've expressed sort of an ambition to sort of transition away a little bit. still be involved, but be involved in a little bit different way. So,
Yeah.
so we'll also have to meet with them and just sort of understand sort of what their vision is as well, to make sure that we're at least conveying that back to you so that you have that context to be able to make a decision, and are aware of those sort of requests and desires and those things. So,
Okay. How long do you think it'll take to do all this?
I mean, we'll just continue to, I don't know that I can give you a date at this point, but we'll continue to plug away at it, and I mean, we should be able to give you something in 2 meetings, probably, similar to what we did this time, where we had an initial conversation, then took a week off, and then maybe came back the following meeting.
Okay.
That's just a quick, target to make sure it moves forward.
Sounds good. All right. Any other board comments or questions? Public comment or questions? Excellent. No other business tonight. That would be item, I think there were a typo on the agenda, but that would be item 15, I guess. And then no appointments or reappointments tonight, based on that conversation we just had. And then now it's looks like item number 5, additional public comment on non-agenda items. So if you have public comment, please come to the podium, state your name, and whether or not you're a resident, please try and keep it to 3 minutes. Any public comment? Anyone online? All right. And some people's favorite item on the agenda is the last one, adjournment. Please have a great night. Thank you for sticking it out with us. Take care.